I was just shouting for someone to get married to while playing DD Tank. Bloody and desperate. But I unexpectedly transmigrated. Leave nothing but dust behind. A DDTANK survival game where there can be only one winner. Players were scrambling for various top-tier equipment on the shelves. Only I chose the plain-looking copper coin. Unexpectedly, it unlocked a hidden reward. Access to the DD Tank Infinite Voucher Mole. Everyone mocked me, saying I chose virtual assets in an apocalypse. But they didn't know. You think I'm falling for it? Humans with superpowers are the system's rule. A cold voice rang out. A level 1 fortification stone in the DD Tank Mole. Everyone has already been declared dead in the real world. For upgrades, this kind of cheap trap. And Zhang Chan was already eyeing me. As soon as the voice finished, almost at the same moment, everyone complained the system was nuts. But when the flood hit, flame, thunder, heaven sealer, love boomerang. When players get an item, they also gain corresponding abilities. Flame corresponds to fire skills. Thunder corresponds to the lightning school. The most powerful is Newton's fruit basket, which actually corresponds to universal gravitation. Others lunged forward to grab them like crazy, fearing that if they were a second late, their favorite item would be snatched by someone else. Only I, in the most inconspicuous corner, found a copper coin with an antique sheen. On it was a line of almost invisible small characters. DT Tank Infinite Voucher Account. I didn't hesitate for a moment, and pocketed the copper coin. The class academic rep who transmigrated with me, Jiang Chun, had just snatched a weapon with mind control. He turned around and saw me taking that copper coin, and snorted with laughter on the spot. He mocked me for being a money grubber, asking why the hell I'd choose game vouchers in an apocalypse. The surrounding players also turned to look at me, bursting into laughter, saying I was a fool who wanted money more than my life. They were all laughing at me, crazily saying that money is the most useless thing in an apocalypse. But they had no idea that the most useless thing in this game was never vouchers, but the items they were fighting over. The only thing that can let me walk out of this game alive is the infinite vouchers in this DD Tank account. Zhang Chun was still hovering around the school belle who chose the love boomerang, trying to win Su Wanqing's favor. Su Wanqing raised her chin delicately, showing off to everyone how invincible her item was. Her item seemed to gain the love of all living creatures, even the love of monsters. With such a glitched op artifact, it might be a bit hard to kill her. I didn't even bat an eye, too lazy to waste words on them. They had no clue just how heaven-defying this voucher copper coin in my hand really was. There are a total of 500 players in this game. Corresponds to top-tier gems in the real world, with 99.99% purity. One level 1 fortification stone, in the real world, could easily sell for a sky-high price of 1 billion. And I have infinite vouchers, meaning I can buy infinite fortification stones. While they were huddled around the system panel, frantically studying how to level up their superpower ranks, I had already used one level 1 fortification stone to complete a transaction in the real world. 1 billion in cash was instantly credited to my bank card. In less than 10 minutes, I became the truly richest man in the world. When the system's cold electronic voice rang out again, it gave all players a final ultimatum. Players have only 1 year to prepare. After 1 year, the death game officially begins. Remember, there is only one winner in this game. They were all rubbing their palms, preparing to use this 1 year to train their superpower proficiency to the top tier, to handle the apocalypse a year later. But I'm going to use this 1 year, with the infinite vouchers from DD Tank, to build an impenetrable doomsday fortress, and turn the whole world into my hunting ground. The money I got from trading fortification stones was flipped through the world map for 3 full days, and I finally found a lonely island in the Atlantic Ocean. The island was moderately sized, geologically stable, and had a natural flat area. It perfectly met all my requirements for building an airport and a port. I splashed out 2 billion and bought the island in full cash. I named it Devil's Island, the island where only devils can survive. To the public, I claimed I was starting a high-end private custom project. I commissioned 10 ultra-large cruise ships and brought in the world's top architectural teams. With all the executives, I signed the highest-level non-disclosure agreements. They couldn't even track the exact location of Devil's Island. To prevent Devil's Island from being located by satellites, I went to the DD Tank Mall in advance and bought dozens of invisibility skill scrolls, then extracted the invisibility pearls from them. The entire island's surface fortress was given an all-around camouflage. From a satellite's perspective, this place was just a deserted stretch of ocean. No buildings could be seen at all. But these were just smoke screens I put out. My true trump card was the ultimate fortress hidden 100 meters underground. In the DD Tank Mall, I cleared out all levels of defensive items. Using top-tier materials obtained from decomposing firm shields, I built fortress walls 5 meters thick. Forget ordinary bombs and weapons. Even a direct hit from a DD Tank Epic +12 weapon wouldn't budget an inch. No biochemical weapon could ever breach it. To solve the energy problem, I bought sun bracelets from the mall to power the solar power station. I also built an underground shelter with 12 independent compartments. Even if 1 or 2 compartments had issues, the remaining ones could ensure my normal life. 3 compartments were aerospace-grade ecological pods, capable of growing vegetables and raising fish and chickens. 2 compartments were stocked with food, medicine, and pure water to last me 20 years. The remaining compartments contained bedrooms, a kitchen, a dining room, an entertainment room, a gym, and a medical room. Everything was provided. The engineers of the construction team had doubts about my crazy project. It didn't matter. I just threw money at them as bonuses. Once the money was there, they immediately shut up and worked, more diligent than anyone. I have endless money. I simply can't spend it all. While they were still in their rented rooms, practicing the superpowers given by their items against the air, calculating every bite of food they ate, I had already gone to the DD Tank Mall and bought a full set of the True Series top-tier weapons, as well as infinite paper planes that allow for spatial teleportation. They all thought I was a useless loser who only knew how to spend money, not knowing that I had already used DD Tank items to turn the whole world into my hunting ground, and they were all my captive prey. The apocalypse in 1 year will show them what a true dimensional strike looks like. The 1-year promise has arrived, and the death game officially descends. While everyone thought it would be an invasion of the Goblin Army from DD Tank, it turned out to be a global mega rainstorm. Over the past year, I made thorough preparations. I cleaned out every weapon in the Egg Hall Mall, and all booster gems. In the Devil Island Bay, I hid deep-sea detection submarines and seaplanes. There are exclusive underground fortress tunnels leading directly to the port. I even hired top coaches to train myself daily to pilot submarines and seaplanes. I even spent points to unlock special channels and found the supernuclear silo rebuilt with True Bomb +12. If you want a chance at rebirth, to prevent ability players from landing on the island, I built a dense artificial reef around the island, all around the perimeter. If any large ships dare approach, they'll hit the reef and sink on the spot. Further in, I installed phone lines powered with high voltage and buried high explosive naval mines throughout the surrounding coastal waters. Using the DDT radar system, I modified a wide-range detection system. Any object approaching the island is immediately discovered and instantly destroyed by hidden defense systems. Lastly, I poured money into building the world's only transportation empire. The week before the apocalypse began, I had every group under my control, destroy all planes and ships. Everyone thought I, the world's richest man, had gone insane, but only the players truly understood that this tycoon who seized global transportation overnight was actually their competitor. In the player chat window, Jiang Chan sent me a private message. "You're that global tycoon, aren't you?" I glanced at it and simply closed the chat window, didn't even bother to reply. A week later, the death game started right on schedule. The call system voice rang out again. The names and numbers of 500 players were displayed publicly on the world screen. I'm number 66. Jiang Chan is number 100. Monsters aren't the threat. The moment the system announcement ended, every player who trained an ability for a year was itching to get started, just waiting for goblins to burst out and wreak havoc. But after a long wait, not a single goblin appeared. Instead, a massive storm swept across the globe. The rain poured nonstop from north to south. A relentless torrential downpour lasted half a month, triggering a super flood directly. Cities were submerged. Land was devoured. Though my Devil Island also endured heavy rain, the island's small size meant the rain clouds left after just 2 days. Not even the fortress gates flooded. The world chat totally exploded. A shelf of initial starting items popped up. In this apocalypse of floods, everyone's abilities were useless. Some even complained the system wasn't fair. It promised goblin arrival in the end times. But the system coldly replied, "Did I ever say the apocalypse had to be goblin invasion?" The world chat instantly went silent. When they arrived in this world, they didn't have a single cent. Over the past year, they trained abilities while trying to earn money and barely survive. It was tough enough, and nobody even thought about stockpiling supplies. Only a few players using abilities for shady activities managed to get a villa and built a shelter in the basement. On the shelf, the basements were the first things destroyed. Meanwhile, I was sitting in the underground fortress's climate-controlled dining room, eating steak, watching live updates, seeing them fighting desperately for a bite of food, battling one another in the flood for survival. In the footage, the streamer hides behind an apartment curtain, shaking like a leaf. The phone camera pointed at the building across the way, his voice barely above a whisper. But the fear was undeniable. On camera, a man crackling with electricity stood at the entrance of the apartment building. He raised his hand and unleashed a lightning bolt, melting the heavy security door into molten metal. He was player number 87. He got the true thunder item and instantly gained lightning powers. After sharpening his skills all year, he thought he'd rule the apocalypse. The flood cut off all supplies, so he used his powers to rob everyone house by house. Anyone who dared resist was instantly blasted to ashes by lightning. But he forgot, even if the apocalypse arrived, the rules of this world couldn't be broken by just one ability user.
His rampage
Quickly alerted the local police. A dozen SWAT rescue boats made their way into the flooded neighborhood. Armed officers surrounded the building tightly. Player 87 laughed right then and there. He raised his hand and fired off lightning at the SWAT teams below. The next moment, gunfire erupted everywhere. An uncountable number of bullets rushed toward him. Glass shattered from the lightning. Explosions overlapped one after another. The whole building was shaking. Suddenly, a figure wrapped in electricity flew out of a top-floor window, like a ragged sack, plunging fast into the muddy flood waters. Not even a splash, just vanished. In front of everyone, on the world screen, player 87's name instantly turned gray. The first player eliminated. World chat went quiet. Just moments ago, players boasting about abilities. Totally. Shut up. They finally realized the scariest thing in this game was never the flood, but the rules of this world, and the other players with items and abilities. While I was hiding out on Devil Island, I put down my fork and smirked coldly. This is just the beginning. They spent a year training abilities, but in the face of absolute firepower and rules, they're not even worthy to be at the table and become the sole survivor. The global tycoon holding infinite resources, his private messages once again flooded my chat window. Jiang Chan kept messaging me dozens of times, crying and begging to form an alliance. I couldn't be bothered to reply even once. After player 37 was eliminated, the floods grew stronger, supplies in the city ran out, and the players' situations turned desperate. No water, no electricity. Food shortages. 3 straight months of flooding completely crushed all NPC hope and forced the players to the edge. Some couldn't hold on. Into using abilities to loot, burn, and destroy, ending up either shot by police or stabbed in the back by jealous players. More and more names turned gray on the screen, and it was during these times Jiang Chan started furiously messaging me. "Li Tianqi, let's form an alliance. Look, we're classmates. If we team up, we'll definitely survive to the end. Reply to me. I know you're seeing this. My mind control ability is powerful. No item powers. When the time comes, I can help you deal with other players. We'll join forces and be unstoppable. We'll definitely survive until the end. He sent dozens of messages, starting off all high and mighty, then moving on to desperate pleas. His tone got more and more submissive. I looked at the messages he sent me. All I could do was laugh. Jimao totally underestimated my intelligence. Or maybe he just overestimated his own character. The rules of this game. They were clear from the very beginning. Only the person who survives until the end gets a chance at rebirth. Now he wants to team up with me. But when we're the last two left, all he'd need is one face-to-face mind control. And he'd easily trick me. Then just sit back and reap the rewards. He'd become the sole winner. You must survive until the end of this death game. Su Wanqing is number 101. I just closed the chat window. Didn't even bother replying, not a single punctuation mark. He thinks I'm some powerless pushover. He has no clue about my Dandan Tang Mall weapons. If I pull out any one of them, I could blow him and his pathetic mind control abilities away. And started taking reckless risks. True fire. I could outplay any fire superpower he's ever seen. True Thunder One Strike would turn him into pure charcoal. Even if he tries to run, I've got true divine wind, faster than any teleportation he's ever witnessed. He has no idea just how insanely powerful my Dandan Tang items are. The flood is still raging, and the despair among the players is getting deeper. They're struggling in the flood. Don't even have a sip of clean water to drink. Meanwhile, I'm swimming in the heated pool on Mystery Island, occasionally checking the satellite feed, watching them fight tooth and nail for a piece of bread. I was just shouting for someone to get married to while playing DD Tank, but I didn't expect that after I ignored Zhang Chun, he'd pull something shady. He went straight to the global chat and anonymously exposed my identity, put me right on the spot, made me the public enemy of all the players. The day after I closed the chat window, the world chat that had been silent for ages was suddenly flooded by an anonymous message. Let me tell you something. Player No 66, the one who overnight acquired all the global airlines and shipping lines, becoming the richest person in the world before the apocalypse hit, must have built countless top-tier shelters. He has so many supplies that he could never use them all up. As long as you find No 66, all of you can survive. As soon as that message appeared, the whole world chat instantly exploded. Players who'd been silent for months reacted like sharks who smelled blood. They went absolutely crazy in a second. I told you that billionaire must be a player. How could a regular person possibly destroy all planes and ships before the apocalypse unless he was No 66? No 66, come out and say something. You're living luxuriously alone in your shelter, watching hundreds of us suffer in the flood. You're seriously too ruthless. Selfish players like you deserve to be eliminated. Let's find him together. Let's find him and take all his resources. Kill him. Once we find No 66, then we can survive. Messages kept coming, filling the entire chat like a frenzy. Everyone blamed their own desperate situation on me, seeing me as their only lifeline, and also as the public enemy that had to be removed. I sat in front of the surveillance monitors, my fingers gently tapping on the desk, a cold smile forming on my lips. Do they really think being anonymous means I won't know who sent it? In this entire game, the only ones who know I chose unlimited credits and know that I'm that billionaire are Zhang Chun and no one else. I ignored him, refused his alliance request, so he played this dirty trick. He wants to use all the players to force me to give up my shelters, so he can reap the benefits. He really thinks he's clever. Too bad he's still too naive. He thinks if he puts me on the spot, I'll panic, get scared, and obediently hand over my shelters. He's wrong. Not only am I not panicking, I'm actually going to go along with his plan and give him and all the players after my resources A huge surprise. A surprise that will send them all to hell together. I twisted my wrist and typed a message on the world chat. Then I sent it straight out. Guys, stop arguing. I'm no 66. The moment I send my message, the frenzied chat instantly fell silent. A few seconds later, messages surged in like a tidal wave again. I looked at all the furious messages, smiled, and kept typing. You want shelters, and you want supplies. I can give them to you. As soon as I said this, the whole chat went quiet again. Everyone was waiting for what I'd say next. But I only built shelters in Shagwo, the United Kingdom, Desertia, and Koala Country. A total of 4 places. There are 6 shelters in total. Each shelter can fit no more than 20 people. There are still over 400 of you. These 6 shelters can't possibly fit everyone. I'll give you the codes for the shelter doors. First come, first served. Please, I'm begging you. Just don't hunt me down anymore. After I said that, I sent the door codes for all 6 shelters to the chat as well. All the players went nuts. They didn't even bother to curse me anymore. They just rushed desperately toward the nearest shelter. Those with teleportation or speed powers cranked their abilities to the max, wishing they could get inside the shelters the very next second. They all thought I was scared by them, that I was afraid, so I obediently gave up the shelters. They all thought what they'd grabbed was a paradise where they could survive, a safe haven in the apocalypse. But they don't have a clue. What I gave them is not a shelter at all, but a mass grave I prepared, specifically for them a year in advance. Overnight, some players had already arrived at the shelters. Player 69 was the first to reach the Shagwo shelter. He had a god tier, super speed wind and rain ability and took just a few hours to reach the Highland shelter I had marked. When he entered the code and opened the shelter door, he immediately started a live stream on the world chat. On camera, the shelter looked as fancy as a 5-star hotel, with climate and humidity control, and piles of steaks, lamb, red wine, and fruit. The tables were covered in gourmet food, and there was an endless supply of purified water and medicine. Player 69 munched on a tomahawk steak, bragging to the camera, looking super proud. Damn, being rich is awesome. This shelter is incredible. It's like heaven. At that point, 10 players had already entered the shelter. When they saw all that food on the live stream, they unanimously decided to lock the shelter doors for good. No one else was getting in. On the stream, the 10 players sat around the table, gorging themselves, completely forgetting themselves. Right in front of all the still arriving players, they personally locked the steel doors of the shelter and even welded the cracks shut. They taunted the viewers on camera, yelling, "Don't come, guys. This shelter's full now. Just the 10 of us are taking it all. You guys deal with your own problems. Don't come here and get yourselves killed. People as slow as you aren't worthy to enter the shelter, so you deserve to drown in the flood." As soon as they said that, the players still struggling through the flood immediately flew into a rage and started cursing wildly at them in the chat. Are you guys even human? You said first come, first served. What right do you have to lock the door and open it as you please? If you don't, I'll use my abilities to blow up this damn shelter. Listen up in there. If you don't open the door, all of us will storm in and kill every last one of you. Outside the shelter, players kept arriving non-stop, since being drowned in a flood or starving to death couldn't compare to the only lifeline they could grab. Desperate to survive, they banged on the doors without stopping, begging those inside to let them in. But the ones inside had already locked the doors tight. No matter how much they pounded on the doors or walls, or even used their powers to attack, they couldn't shake the door reinforced by the defense orb inside, an unbreakable steel entrance. The people inside carried on partying, while those outside had sunk into utter despair. Just then, I suddenly popped up in the world chat and said, "Didn't I say each shelter fits 20 people? Only 10 got in, so isn't there room for 10 more? Oh, I forgot to tell you, there's also a hidden code. Even if they lock the main door, you guys can still get in through a secret door. The secret door is located on the outside wall of the shelter, under the third tree 300 meters away, where you'll find a hidden mechanism. Turn it. The hidden door will appear. As soon as that sentence was spoken, the players outside the door instantly got bloodshot eyes. They charged at the dead tree like maniacs. Sure enough, they found the rotating mechanism. They twisted it with all their might. On the ancient-looking wall, a pitch-black hidden door really appeared. The players rushed forward desperately. For the chance to survive, they fought to squeeze to the front. Afraid they'd be just a second too late. All the spots would be snatched away by others. Right at that moment, a seemingly weak girl was running in last place. Suddenly, using the ancient bamboo spear, she instantly sprouted countless arrow bamboos, stabbing wildly at the crowd ahead. She tripped up a large group of players instantly. For a single spot, she ruthlessly attacked her recent companions. But she didn't expect. A player with the Minotaur item awakened the power of a raging bull, crushed her arrow bamboos with a single punch, leaped forward suddenly, and snapped her neck right away. To survive, they tore off the last layer of pretense and showed their most primitive, ugliest fangs. Players fell one after another at the shelter door. Gray names soared rapidly on the public screen. Only now did they finally understand. The abilities given by the system were never meant to fight monsters, but to make them slaughter each other. When the last survival spot was taken, the hidden door automatically locked. All 6 shelters were completely full. The 116 players inside finally breathed a sigh of relief, thinking they had grabbed a ticket to survival. They started celebrating wildly again. They drank red wine in the shelter, ate gourmet food, mocked the players unable to get in outside the doors, dreamed of being the last to survive. They had absolutely no idea. Death had already quietly arrived over their heads. I sat in the Devil's Island surveillance room, watching the real-time screens from all 6 shelters. A cold smile curled on my lips. It's about time. Jiang Chun sent me a private message. His tone was full of pride. See, even though we didn't form an alliance, we still cooperated so well. We were meant to be allies from the start. I looked at the message and replied to him directly. Idiot, don't you have any shame? You think I don't know who's been anonymously exposing me, putting me on the hot seat? It's you, isn't it? He's still pretending to be innocent. Hey, billionaire, don't get so worked up. Our collaboration helped you out this round. You eliminated so many players. You should thank me. I helped you remove so many competitors. I laughed and didn't reply to him again. Honestly, I should thank him. If he hadn't drawn every player's attention to my shelter, how could I so easily gather the most capable in the world, the ones most likely to cross the Atlantic, and find Devil's Island, all in these 6 shelters, and wipe them out in one go? I've been setting up this game for a year. These 6 shelters were planned for them from the beginning. Graveyard. My finger moved slightly and pressed the red detonation button in front of me. The next second, buried deep in the foundation of all 6 shelters, a full 1,000 tons of explosives were detonated instantly. A blinding white flash swept across the surveillance screens, followed by an earth-shattering explosion shockwave. The shelters built on high ground, along with the 116 players inside, were instantly obliterated by the blast. Not even a trace of debris remained. Almost at the same time, worldwide, players' names on the global chat turned gray at an insane rate. The screen was completely flooded with a dense mass of gray names. When the explosion ended, the number of players on the global chat instantly dropped by almost half. A total of 116 players were wiped out by me in one blow, all eliminated from the game. In the private message window, Jiang Cheng took a full 10 minutes before finally sending me a message. His tone was filled with barely concealed terror. I underestimated you. I replied to him with a smile. Thanks for your assist. Otherwise, it would have been really hard for me to gather so many players all at once. They never knew until their deaths that the shelter they fought for their whole lives ended up becoming their own grave. And at that moment, the cold system voice suddenly echoed in my ear. Congratulations to player 66, Li Tianzi, for having the most kills this round. You've earned an extra reward. Looking forward to your next impressive performance. When I saw this reward, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. See, this apocalypse has always been survival of the fittest. And they didn't even qualify to be my opponent. The rain will eventually stop someday. But the real game is only just beginning now. The flood lasted 4 whole months and finally started to recede. Land buried for 4 months slowly resurfaced. The sun rose again, shining down on the devastated earth. The 91 remaining players all sighed in relief, thinking this disaster was finally over. They struggled through the flood for 4 months, barely survived, finally able to step back onto dry land. Everyone thought they'd made it through the hardest challenge. But little did they know, this was just the beginning of the nightmare. The coal system voice echoed in every player's ear again. Congratulations to the 101 players for passing the first stage, Rain Apocalypse. Next up is Stage 2, Insect Nest Apocalypse. As soon as these words appeared, the global chat erupted instantly. Insect nest? Bring it on. I've trained my ESP for a year. What's there to fear? A few bugs? No big deal. Finally, our powers can come into play. That loser player 66 without any ESP. This time, he'll just wait to be chewed to the bone by those insects. Right. After we deal with the insect nest, the first thing we'll do is hunt him down and tear him to pieces. They all thought I, the richest player without ESP, was sure to die this time. But they had no idea. This insect swarm isn't an ordinary one. It's the infamous devil ant scenario from Egg Candy's classic dungeon, the most terrifying scenario of all. And a year ago, I already bought out the Egg Candy store's supply of every exclusive item for dealing with devil ants, even got a clear grasp of the devil ant queen, Daenerys' weakness, down to every detail. They thought the devil ants were here to kill me, but in reality, these ants are my gift to them. The moment the second round of death notices dropped, a terrifying devil ant disaster erupted worldwide. A black army of devil ants flooded out of their nest. Everything in their path was destroyed. Whether reinforced concrete or living people, everything was reduced to nothing, not even bone fragments left. Ordinary devil ants have shells as hard as iron. Normal bullets can only spark off them without causing any real damage. Couldn't hurt them at all. Their antennae can easily pick up huge rocks. Strangling a grown adult is a piece of cake. What's scarier? These devil ants, once they consume an ESP player's flesh, immediately gain their items. Their powers evolve infinitely. The player's nightmare began. On the devil ant disaster's first day, a dozen players were forever left on the gray list in global chat. A player with Earth-based ESP used their power to build a stronghold in the ruins, thinking it was unbreakable. But then, the devil ant army burrowed in through the cracks in the foundation. Just 10 minutes later, the stronghold was hollowed out. That player couldn't even scream. Before, he was chewed down to a pile of bones. Worse yet, after the ants devoured his Earth-based power, they immediately evolved the ability to tunnel underground, able to easily penetrate a dozen meters of reinforced concrete. There was no fortress that could stop them anymore. A player with ice-based ESP could freeze a swarm of ants with a wave, but didn't expect the frozen devil ants would instantly be devoured by the swarm behind them. Devil ants instantly evolved freezing. With a single breath of cold air, they turned him into an ice statue, crushed in seconds. The devil ants grew stronger and stronger. Their evolution sped up faster and faster. The more ESP players they devoured, the more powers they acquired. In the end, there were even devil ant captains with intelligence and tactics. They could set traps, flank, ambush, toying with players endlessly. Players were panicking completely. They originally thought their ESP powers would crush these bugs easily, but to their surprise, their own powers instead became fuel for the devil ants' evolution. They couldn't beat them, couldn't outrun them either, forced to run for their lives from the devil ant army, scattering everywhere. Gray names on the global chat increased day by day. The player count dropped sharply. Meanwhile, I was sitting on the beach of Devil Island, soaking up the sun, sipping ice-cold cola, and occasionally checking satellite feeds, watching how miserably they're chased by the devil ants. They have no idea that my Devil Island had foolproof defenses from the very start. I already bought dozens of tons of specialized insecticide, sprayed circle after circle around the whole island. This insecticide is lethally attractive to devil ants, and highly toxic at the same time. Devil ants, once they smell it, rush over insanely. They die instantly upon contact, never even getting a chance to approach the island. The underground bunkers of the island are packed with various anti-ant gear. Ordinary devil ants are nothing. Even if it's the devil ant queen herself, I'm confident I'll make sure she never leaves alive. They're fighting the devil ants in the ruins, unable to get a single hot meal, living in fear of being eaten every day. I stroll around the island daily, checking how my crops are growing, inspecting my nuclear submarine and airplane. Devil Island is basically paradise. I'm living an incredibly comfortable life, but I never expected. Right at that moment, Su Wanqing, that woman, used her heart boomerang ability and ventured into the deepest part of the devil ant nest, hugged the biggest boss's leg. Half a month after the devil ant disaster began, the player count had already dropped to 50, and Su Wanqing, the campus queen who picked heart boomerang as her item, not only survived, but was thriving. I saw through satellite surveillance. She relied on her own superpower, and actually managed to make those flesh-eating demon ants not only refrain from attacking her, but even bring her food and water, protecting her like a queen. He relied on this superpower the whole way, and passed through waves of demon ant armies, making his way to the deepest part of the demon ant nest, where he encountered the ultimate boss of the demon ant dungeon, the demon ant queen. The demon ant queen controls the entire demon ant army. She had devoured more than a dozen superpowered players, and has evolved to possess intelligence and a form almost like a human's. He moved into the demon ant queen's lair, protected by the entire demon ant army, with an endless supply of food and unlimited water. He doesn't have to worry about the flood at all, nor is he hunted by demon ants. He's living far more comfortably than any other player. And the first thing he did was to send me a private message, full of bragging and provocation. Li Tianqi, I gave you a chance to share your supplies with me, but you still turned me down. Now you're regretting it, aren't you? Without superpowers, the demon ants ignore you. You simply can't survive. Only demon ants can survive on this planet, and I'll survive with them too. You'll regret rejecting me for the rest of your life. In the flood apocalypse, he depended completely on this love-gaining superpower, easily obtaining every item from the people he interacted with, getting by with the care and affection of others, and shamelessly snatching away opportunities for others to survive. Now he's holding tight to the demon ant queen's favor again, thinking he can rely on the demon ant queen and ultimately become the only winner. He's way too naive. He really thinks being under the demon ant queen's wing means he'll be safe forever. Since he likes staying with the demon ant queen so much, I'll send them both straight to hell together. Su Wanqing's provocation. I didn't even care about it. Now, the 30 players left in the game have formed 3 major factions. A 3-way standoff, checking and balancing each other. And I know every single one of their backgrounds, inside and out. The first faction is the mercenary organization controlled by Jiang Chen. After the flood subsided, Jiang Chen used his mind control superpower to gradually control the top ranks of the mercenary base, eventually taking over the entire mercenary organization. With a powerful arsenal at his disposal, a fortified military base, and countless soldiers and weapons, making it the strongest of the 3 factions. The second faction is the demon ant army controlled by the demon ant queen and Su Wanqing. The demon ant queen gets stronger and stronger as she devours superpowered players. The demon ant army stretches across the globe, innumerable in number. Even the firepower of the mercenaries struggles to wipe them out completely. They are the greatest threat in the world. The third faction is the Black Hand Society controlled by Zhao Lai. Zhao Lai is player number 128. Even before the apocalypse began, he entered the most chaotic country in the world, and, relying on the Newton's fruit basket, obtained the gravitational superpower, and reclaimed the largest Black Hand Society in the region. In the apocalypse, he grew stronger by plundering supplies from civilians step by step. Many ability users also followed him, His gravitational power was considered unbeatable in close combat. He could manipulate gravity at will in one-on-one battles. No player could defeat him. The remaining players all became attached to these three major factions. There wasn't a single lone player. They all thought I was hiding on a deserted Atlantic island, cut off from the world, completely unaware of what was happening outside. But they had no idea that I secretly controlled 1,820 satellites in space, with the ability to monitor every corner of the globe in real time. I even spent a fortune buying a large amount of Tirano insulation membranes in the mall, so the army could precisely locate every player scattered around the world and kept long-term surveillance on them. They were all itching to wipe each other out, hoping to be the last one standing, without realizing that all of them were acting according to my script. Who lives or dies is up to me. But the next day, I tapped Xiaolai's avatar on my notebook with a pen. A sly smile curled at the corner of my mouth. Of the three major forces, Black Hand Society was the weakest, and also the easiest to use. So I'll start with you. Right at that moment, the Coal System voice sounded again. The third apocalypse officially descends. Congratulations to 30 players for surviving the second apocalypse. Tidal surge. Next, the third apocalypse. The Ice Age begins. The moment the system announcement ended, the temperature across the planet began plunging at a speed visible to the naked eye. In less than half a day, the global temperature dropped sharply to minus 60 degrees Celsius. An unprecedented catastrophic blizzard raged for days and nights non-stop, sweeping across the entire planet. Even Devil's Island, the tropical island where I was located, was severely affected. The heavy, goose feather-like snow covered all of Devil's Island. The electrical grid above ground was directly crushed by the snowstorm, and even the wind and tidal power plants suffered massive damage. But I wasn't worried at all, because inside my underground fortress, I installed top-tier orbs bought from the egg hall store. No matter how cold it got outside, it was always a pleasant 25 degrees in the fortress, like spring all year round. The Thunder Core kept running non-stop, guaranteeing an uninterrupted supply of electricity for the whole fortress. I ate hot pot inside the fortress, watching the raging blizzard outside, feeling incredibly relaxed. But the players outside weren't so lucky. Glacial weather swept the world. The land was blanketed under a thick layer of ice. The power grid was completely paralyzed, with no heat source left. An ordinary person wouldn't last 10 minutes outside before freezing into an ice statue. People were freezing to death in droves. Even with powers as protection, the players couldn't withstand this lethal cold, let alone the fact they'd run out of winter supplies a long time ago and couldn't even get a bite of hot food. Forced to curl up in ruins, the first to break was Xiaolai's Black Hand Society. During the floods and insect swarms, they'd already ransacked all the civilian supplies. When the Ice Age hit, they had nowhere near enough coal or gasoline for heat, and not enough food for winter either. Internal conflicts exploded instantly. Gang members would draw knives over a piece of coal or a bite to eat, slaughtering each other. The ability users relying on him froze to death one after another, or died from infighting. The number of gray names on the chat kept rising. Xiaolai was running around frantically. No matter how strong his gravity power was, he couldn't summon supplies out of thin air. He could only watch as his faction crumbled away bit by bit, watching the satellite feed. I saw Xiaolai smashing things in his base in a rage. So I grinned and sent him a direct message. Xiaolai, how about we work together? Less than a minute after I sent the message, Xiaolai replied. His tone was full of wariness and hostility. What do you want? Why should I trust you? As I read his reply, I started tapping softly on the keyboard, drawing him step by step into the trap I'd set for him. I wanted to make him the sharpest blade, to take out the Shadow Queen and Su Wanqing. In my hands, I messaged Xiaolai back, getting straight to the point. I can give you winter supplies, coal, gasoline, food, and medicine. Anything you need, as long as you take them. Your whole Black Hand Society can survive this winter. As soon as I said that, Xiaolai went silent for a long time. Right now, what he needed most was winter supplies. My offer hit his weak spot perfectly. After a few minutes, He sent another message. What do you want? There's no such thing as a free lunch. I want you to help me take down the Ant Queen. I laid out my terms directly and explained my plan to him. The scientist team I put together had developed an exclusive ant killer for magic ants. Just spray it on the magic ants, and they would instantly melt into pools of blood. Even the queen herself couldn't withstand it. But as you know, I have no powers. My fighting ability is 0. After reviewing all options, of the 30 remaining ability players, you are the strongest, and only you can pull this off for me. I have the antidote. You have powers. Working together to destroy the magic ants benefits us both. To earn his trust, I specially sent my violent dragon demon through the heavy snowstorm to deliver a sample of the magic ant pesticide to him, along with a big batch of winter supplies, enough to keep the whole Black Hand Society alive through winter. When Zhao Lai saw with his own eyes the pesticide instantly melt a magic ant captain into a pool of blood, he was completely sold. In his mind, I was just a powerless loser, and even with a stockpile of resources, I posed no threat at all. So by cooperating with me, he could survive with my supplies, and with my pesticide, wipe out his biggest threat, the Sound Queen. Once the Sound Q N is dead, he could turn on me and kill me in a flash. By then, all my supplies would become his. To him, allying with me was a sure win deal. I was nothing but an easy target handed right to him. He barely hesitated and replied directly, accepting my offer. All right, I'll work with you. We'll take out the Sound Queen. Seeing his reply, a cold smile crept to the corner of my lips. He thought he was the fisherman, waiting to reap the rewards. But he didn't realize he was just a mantis in my hand, and I was the hunter, standing at the end holding a slingshot. From the moment he agreed to work with me, his fate was already sealed. After finalizing the deal with Zhao Lai, we quickly drafted our attack plan. This is exactly when the demon ants are most active. It's also when the demon ant queen lets her guard down the most. Zhao Lai led all his psychic players under his command, braving the blizzard, and quietly surrounded the demon ant nest. Meanwhile, I was in the monitoring room on Devil's Island, remotely controlling those flying pets, carrying the demon ant insecticide, and flew above the demon ant nest, ready to deploy at any moment. Speaking into the microphone, I gave orders to Zhao Lai. The moment I said action, my finger moved slightly, and I pressed the release button. Hundreds of flying pets opened their packages at the same time, releasing massive amounts of demon ant insecticide, mixed with the swirling snowflakes, blanketing everything below. The demon ants that came in contact with the insecticide instantly let out agonized howls, their bodies melting at a speed visible to the naked eye, turning into pools of foul-smelling, bloody water. Within just a few seconds, more than half of the demon ant army outside the nest had melted away. The entire demon ant nest instantly turned into a living hell. The demon ant queen looked at her people as they melted into pools of blood in an instant. In her scarlet eyes, an explosion of pure violence and rage erupted. She let out a deafening roar toward the sky, leapt forward, and jumped straight out of the nest. With her bow and arrow, she fired repeatedly, killing over a dozen flying pets in the air in an instant. But there were simply too many flying pets, and insecticide kept raining down nonstop. The demon ant army continued to melt in frenzy. At that very moment, Zhao Lai and his psychic players charged in. They attacked and killed the demon ant queen. Zhao Lai roared in fury and unleashed his gravitational superpower. A terrifying gravity field crashed down instantly, pinning the demon ant queen firmly to the ground, making it impossible for her to lift her wrist at all, completely immobilizing her. Several players seized the opportunity and rushed forward, using their own superpowers, to launch a frenzied assault on the demon ant queen. But what they didn't expect was that the demon ant queen had long prepared a backup plan. A demon ant captain, hiding in the shadows, moved like a swift monkey and pounced out in an instant, using its head antennae to strangle them to death. The demon ant captain's sneak attack instantly caused heavy casualties among the players. Zhao Lai was completely enraged and used his gravitational power again. This time, he pushed the gravity to its absolute limit. Countless huge boulders came crashing down towards the demon ant queen and the demon ant captains, smashing down hard. As the boulders rained down, clouds of dust filled the air, and the whole ground shook violently. The demon ant queen and those demon ant captains, along with the entrance to the entire nest, were completely buried under the giant rocks. Su Wanqing stood on the nest's balcony, watching the scene unfold. She covered her face and let out a piercing scream of agony. Zhao Lai snorted coldly. He moved his fingers slightly. The terrace beneath Su Wanqing's feet was instantly torn apart and collapsed by gravity. Su Wanqing screamed as she fell off the 10-meter-high balcony. Just as she was about to hit the ground and be shattered to pieces, the queen of demonic sound, buried by boulders, suddenly leaped out from the ruins. She caught the falling Su Wanqing securely, holding her tightly in her arms. Even though she was battered by falling stones, even though she was poisoned, her first instinct was still to protect Su Wanqing. But what she didn't expect was, the moment she caught Su Wanqing, one of her own hands suddenly burst with countless black threads, as sharp as steel needles. In an instant, they bound Zhao Lai nearby. Zhao Lai's face changed dramatically. He never expected that, after swallowing so many ability users, the queen still had restraining powers hidden. The demonic sound queen gave a gentle pull. A terrifying force was transmitted immediately. Zhao Lai's body was instantly sliced apart by the threads, shattering into pieces. But the Shadow Ant Queen did not expect. Zhao Lai had long been prepared to die. He had covered himself with insecticide against the shadow ant. The threads tore open his pouches of chemicals. A cloud of insecticide mixed with snow and wind instantly surrounded the queen. The demonic sound queen uttered a scream of excruciating pain. Her body began melting visibly before their eyes. Su Wanqing, cradled in her arms, watched the queen melt bit by bit. She was scared out of her wits and pushed the queen away forcefully, screaming, "Gross! Get away from me, don't touch me!" In the queen's blood-red eyes, there was an instant flash of extreme hurt and disbelief. The woman she protected until her dying breath gave her the most fatal blow, at her weakest moment. A second later, she completely melted into a pool of foul-smelling blood, dying amidst the endless wind and snow. The ant nests instantly turned into a heap of rubble. Su Wanqing trembled all over in terror. She scrambled and crawled, desperately running away. She just wanted to escape this hell. But what she didn't know was that I had already used satellites to plot out an escape route for her. She ran in a panic without direction, slipped underfoot, and fell straight into an ice pit more than 10 meters deep. There was a loud crack. She broke both her legs in the fall. Bone-chilling cold instantly wrapped around her. She screamed for help with all her might. But on this desolate ice field, no one would come to her rescue. This time, there was no queen to jump down and save her. A few hours later, she froze to death, trapped in the ice pit. She became an ice sculpture. I sat in the monitoring room, holding a pen, and crossed their names off in my notebook, one by one. Now, in this entire game, I have only one opponent left. Jiang Chun, the one who controls the mercenaries, and has wanted me dead since the beginning. In the whole game, only a few of Jiang Chan's players and I remain. Jiang Chun, who chose the mental control ability, mocked me from the very beginning, and schemed against me like a hypocrite. He is also my final opponent. He knows very well that there are only 2 of us left in this game. It's either him dead or me. Li Tianqi, stop hiding. There's only us left in this game now. All you have is a little dirty money, while I have missiles, an aircraft carrier, and military planes. Even if you hide to the ends of the earth, I'll find you. I'll drag you out of your turtle shell. The only winner of this game can be me. Almost everyone in the world is already dead. No one can restrain him anymore. He's in control of all the mercenaries' firepower, and thinks he's definitely going to win. But what he doesn't know is, I'm not afraid of him at all. I watched him rant in the public chat, smirked, and sent him a middle finger. I know everything about his mental control ability. This power is strong and can control humans and lesser monsters. But it has a fatal weakness. It must be used face to face. As long as I hide in my underground bunker and avoid him, no matter how strong his power is, he can't hurt me at all. Moreover, my underground bunker was built using top-tier defense items from Bomb Gunner. Forget missiles. Even a nuke couldn't break through. He thinks I'm just a coward hiding in my shell. But what he doesn't know is, I've already prepared his final resting place. And he's walking right into the trap I've dug for him. He bragged on public chat for ages, but all I replied was a middle finger. He was completely enraged. He made a downright insane decision.
He's going to use all the missiles at his disposal
To launch an all-out bombardment on my Devil's Island. He wants to blow my Devil's Island and my bunker to ashes. Jiang Chun is a man of his word. The day after he declared war, multiple intercontinental missiles were launched from the mercenary base, speeding toward my Devil's Island. My radar detection system immediately locked onto the missiles' paths. Alarms instantly blared throughout the bunker, but I wasn't worried at all. I even picked up my coffee from the desk and took a leisurely sip. Several missiles landed precisely on Devil's Island. A thunderous explosion shook the skies. A blinding white light flashed. The whole island trembled violently. The shockwave from the missile blasts swept over everything. The ground-level electric grid and rocks were instantly reduced to debris. The surface of Devil's Island was shrouded in thick smoke and dust. Jiang Chun sat in the command room at the mercenary base, watching the satellite feed of Devil's Island being bombed. He laughed triumphantly. He thought after that round of bombing, even if I hid in the bunker, I'd be dead for sure. He immediately checked the world chat, waiting for my name to go gray. But after a long wait, my name was still lit up, shining brightly. There wasn't even a hint that I'd died.
His smile
Froze on his face. Impossible, absolutely impossible. My missiles could blow through bunkers dozens of meters underground. How could he still be alive? Jiang Chun completely lost it.
He just couldn't figure out.
How I survived his missile strike. He didn't realize. My underground bunker walls are made with top-tier defense items from Bomb Gunner, mixed with special steel. The 5-meter thick walls can take a direct nuke hit.
His regular missiles
Couldn't even scratch my bunker door. His bombing, to me, was nothing but noise. I was still sitting in the bunker drinking coffee, watching on the monitors, as he stormed around the command room, furious. I just found it funny. He thought he could kill me like this. So naive. After 2 rounds of failed bombings, Jiang Chun completely lost his mind. He made an even crazier decision. He was going to personally lead the entire aircraft carrier fleet toward Devil's Island. He was going to land himself, drag me out of the underground bunker, and kill me with his own hands. Jiang Chun set out with the entire carrier fleet. Over a dozen warships, 1 nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, a massive force, headed straight for Devil's Island in the Atlantic. But he didn't know that I'd been watching his every move, clearly through satellite surveillance. He was so reckless because he still had a trump card in his hand. That trump card was one of his ability users, someone who could pinpoint the enemy's location through conversation. Since then, I never responded to any players, leaving him no opportunity. He thought I didn't know his little trick, but what he didn't know was that from the moment he recruited that ability user, I had already set my sights on that ability. And that seemingly useless tracking ability was actually the key to my ultimate trap for him. New Year's arrived. Blizzards still swept the sky, and glacial weather engulfed the whole planet. People all over the world were struggling to survive in the freezing cold, unable to even get a hot meal. But only I, in the bunker's dining hall, had a table full of delicious food. Watching pre-apocalypse variety shows, eating to my heart's content. But as I ate, watching the snowstorm outside the window, I couldn't help but feel a wave of sadness. I'm already dead in the real world. How heartbroken my parents must be after learning of my death. No matter how comfortable I am in this apocalypse game, no matter how much wealth I have, or how strong my bunker is, it doesn't compare to my real home, the one with my parents there. I have to go back. I must become the only winner and make it out alive to the real world. Back to my parents. Thinking of this,
I picked up my phone.
took a photo of the table full of dishes and the bunker behind me. In the photo, I was sitting in front of the dining table with the bunker's iconic structures behind me. Looking at that photo, a smile curled on my lips. I sent it straight to Jiang Chun. He was ecstatic, thinking I'd finally slipped up, thinking he'd found my weakness. But he had no idea that I took that picture on purpose. I wanted him to locate Devil's Island and bring all his forces here. Come look for me on Devil's Island. Because only this way could he step right into the ultimate trap I set for him. Jiang Chun got the exact location of Devil's Island and was wildly excited. He thought I was so proud during New Year I let my guard down and accidentally exposed my location. He immediately ordered the whole aircraft carrier fleet to move at full speed straight toward Devil's Island. The carrier fleet easily broke through all of my outer defenses and smoothly docked on Devil's Island. Jiang Chun led hundreds of fully armed soldiers, marching grandly onto Devil's Island. They quickly found the entrance to my underground bunker. Looking at the thick steel doors, Jiang Chun had a confident smile on his face. Li Tianji, let's see where you can run now. Like catching a turtle in a jar. I liked how, with a wave of his hand, he immediately ordered his men to bomb the bunker doors nonstop. Round after round of intense explosives, deafening blasts echoed across the entire Devil's Island. After hours of bombardment, the heavy bunker door was finally blown open, revealing the pitch-black tunnel inside. Jiang Chun gazed at the dark tunnel and laughed triumphantly. Sure, I had nowhere left to run. Ready to do whatever he wanted with me.
He thought the game was already won.
But he had no idea that everything he was seeing was exactly what I wanted him to see. That door, that tunnel, all set up just for him. The entrance to hell. Just as he was about to order his soldiers to storm the tunnel and drag me out, my video call request suddenly popped up on his communicator. Jiang Chun froze for a second at my call, then smugly answered. He grinned arrogantly into the camera and said, Li Tianqi, it's way too late to beg for mercy now. I'm already at your bunker door. There's no escape for you. As he spoke, he signaled his men to get ready to storm the tunnel. But my face in the video showed no panic at all. Instead, I smiled calmly. I raised my finger and pointed behind me at the vast, star-filled universe. Who told you I was on Devil's Island? Open your eyes wide and take a real good look. Where do you think I am now? Jiang Chun watched the vast universe behind me in the video, and the iconic equipment inside the space station. The smile on his face froze instantly. His pupils suddenly contracted. His face showed ultimate terror and disbelief. Impossible, how are you in space? When did you leave Devil's Island? I looked at his panicked expression. A cold smile curved at the corner of my mouth. You didn't really think the photo I sent you was a careless leak of my location, did you? Right after I sent you that photo, I had already left Devil's Island. That's right. I used the spatial ability brought by the prop paper airplane early on, taking all my survival supplies with me, and directly teleported to the International Space Station in orbit. The entire Devil's Island, and the whole underground fortress, except for the tactical nuclear bomb I left behind in advance, modified from Bomb Hall's true Big Bang, had nothing else left. I haven't been on the island for a while. Jiang Chun finally realized it as he listened. He finally reacted. His face instantly turned pale. His voice started to tremble. No way. A nuclear bomb? You left a nuke on the island? He went crazy, turning and running toward the aircraft carrier fleet. He screamed frantically at the soldiers. Evacuate! Hurry! Evacuate! Leave the island immediately. Quick, but it's already too late. I watched his panicked expression in the video. smiling as I pressed the detonation button in my hand. Game over for you, Jiang Chun. The moment my words ended, the nuclear bomb buried deep in the underground fortress detonated instantly. A blinding white light engulfed the entire Devil's Island. The apocalyptic nuclear shockwave swept through everything with unstoppable force. Jiang Chun and his soldiers, along with the entire carrier fleet and all of Devil's Island, were melted away instantly by the intense heat of the nuclear blast. Not even a speck of residue remained. He didn't even have time to scream. He vanished from this world completely. Almost at the same time, on the world chat, Jiang Chun's name turned gray instantly. Only I remained in the entire game. The Cole system voice echoed instantly, with ear-piercing victory music resounding through the entire space station. Congratulations to player No. 66, Li Tianqi, for becoming the sole winner of this doomsday game. The system's teleport countdown sounded until the last second in my ears. I leapt into the blinding white light, my mind filled with images of Dad and Mom smiling. Thinking about opening the door at home, smelling Mom's braised pork, Dad taking my bag with a smile, asking if I had fun on this trip. I had even planned how to explain to them my disappearance over the past year. But the warmth I expected didn't arrive. Instead, what I felt was stronger than a nuclear blast in the doomsday game. A violent spatial tearing sensation. My internal organs felt like they were being squeezed hard by an invisible hand. Pain drilled through every bone in my body. The system voice in my ears was no longer that cold mechanical sound. Instead, it was an ancient, sacred, but infinitely weary female voice. It sounded as if it crossed countless millennia to reach me. Congratulations, Challenger Li Tianqi, for passing the preliminary survival trial, successfully awakening Bomb Bomb Hall's hero. You are officially entered in the summoner sequence. I suddenly opened my eyes, seeing scorched earth ravaged by war. The ground was covered with dense craters. Broken arrows were stuck among the ruins. Shattered artillery shells, and several lifeless, humanoid bodies with pointed ears. In the distance, the sky was stained blood red by the breath of an evil dragon. Heavy dark clouds pressed overhead. Even the wind carried the smell of sulfur and blood. My mind was blank. I stood frozen on the spot. What's going on? Didn't I clear the doomsday game, earning the chance at rebirth? Shouldn't I have returned to the real world? Where am I? That voice said, "This is the Bomb Bomb Hall world, the origin protected by the goddess of creation." The female voice echoed again. I suddenly looked up and saw in midair the slow emergence of a translucent female apparition. She wore a pure white robe, her body glowing with soft golden light, but her brow was full of deep fatigue and sorrow. She said, "She is the guardian goddess of this Bomb Bomb Hall world." It was her who personally granted me the Bomb Bomb Hall unlimited voucher certificate. Just one sentence from her instantly chilled half the blood in my body. I finally realized, throughout the whole process, I was kept in the dark. That so-called doomsday game wasn't a random life and death rebirth game at all. It was a preliminary trial she set up for me. Those unlimited voucher coins that the players mocked weren't starter items from the doomsday game system. They were what she gave to me as a summoner candidate. I clenched my fists, my knuckles turning white. The anger in my eyes was almost bursting skyward. I gritted my teeth and asked her, word by word, why? "You tricked me." I clearly cleared the game. I was supposed to return to the real world, back to my parents. The goddess's apparition sighed softly, her gaze full of apology, but not a hint of hesitation. She said to me, "I'm sorry, Challenger from Earth, but she had to do this. 3 months ago, the ancient dark dragon imprisoned for millennia in the dragon's nest abyss broke through the goddess of creation's seal. He devoured the origin power of Bomb Bomb Hall world, becoming ever stronger. His dragon breath can burn everything. His claws can tear space apart. It won't be long before he breaks through the world barriers and invades my real world. By then, your world will be 1,000 times more tragic than the doomsday game you went through. Your parents will die at his hands. My heart suddenly tightened. The word parents instantly struck my softest spot. It doused most of my rage in an instant. I stared hard at her, waiting for her explanation. She said she had been searching for thousands upon thousands of years and tried countless methods, but had never found anyone capable of completely defeating the dragon Baru Batos. She also said, the dark dragon Baru Batos is completely immune to pure supernatural abilities, brute force, and mind control alike. The stronger the superpower wielder, the more his dragon scales assimilate them, making them his fuel to grow stronger. Those who can defeat him have never been brute warriors relying only on strength, but those who are brave and clever, steadfast in mind, and able to win against the odds using wisdom and tools. So she created that doomsday trial, to select a true hero from countless dead souls. I relied on Bomb Bomb Hall's props, without any superpower, but eliminated 499 superpowered players through strategic moves, surviving by careful planning against all odds, and made it out alive in the end. Only if I defeat the dragon Barobatos, completely cutting off his threat to both worlds, can I truly earn the right to return to the real world. I stand on scorched earth, the wind whipping sand and dust against my face. In the distance, the sky echoes with another deafening dragon roar. The entire ground trembles slightly. I look down at the voucher coins in my hand. They're still shining with a warm golden glow. The familiar sensation comes from my fingertips. I have no choice. Even if it's just so I can truly return to my parents, I have to accept this mission. I take a deep breath, raise my head and look at the goddess's phantom floating in midair. All confusion and anger in my eyes fade away, leaving only cold determination. Where is the dragon's lair dungeon? The goddess tells me, the lair of the dark dragon is in the dragon's lair abyss at the northernmost part of Egg Hall World. There are 4 stages in total there. Only after clearing every stage can you meet the dark dragon in person. The first stage is the goblin commander Pochi, who guards the entrance. The second stage is the little demon Dio, who lives in Dragon's Lair Canyon. The third stage is the dragon's most loyal guardian, Evil Flame Dragon Slayer. Only after passing these 3 stages can you reach the peak of the dragon's lair to face the ultimate boss, Dragon Barobatos. And to defeat the dark dragon, you must forge the ultimate artifact of Egg Hall, the True Count's sword. Legend has it this artifact was crafted by the creation goddess as an exclusive accessory for the vampire count, only with rare materials from the dark dragon's lair, combined with top-tier enhancement and synthesis stones. Can it be forged? After the goddess finished speaking, she turned into a streak of golden light and merged into the voucher coins in my hand. She left only one last sentence behind. These are all the powers I have left. From here on, the journey is yours alone. Remember, only the mentally strong can wield the artifact and defeat the dragon. As the golden light faded, the voucher coins in my hand shone even brighter than before. At the same time, in my mind, a complete map of Egg Hall World appeared, along with the forging blueprint for the True Count's sword. I opened the familiar Egg Hall shop panel. Sure enough, the unlimited vouchers were still there. All the regular items in the shop could be bought infinitely. But just as I expected, the forging blueprint for the True Count's sword and the exclusive materials in the dungeon can be bought in the shop. With a year of experience from the Doomsday game, I'm well aware, no matter the situation, being properly prepared is always the first rule for survival. Following the map's guide, I headed toward the only remaining main city in Egg Hall World, the City of Heroes. To clear the Dragon's Lair dungeon, I had to first understand the world's rules and the weaknesses of every boss in each stage. And that information could only be found in the City of Heroes. After walking for about 2 hours, I finally saw the city walls of the City of Heroes. It was a gigantic city built with black boulders. The walls rose dozens of meters high, covered with cannon and arrow ports. Soldiers stood atop the walls, all holding bows and carrying shell launchers on their backs. On every face were signs of fatigue and alertness from years of war. But just as I was about to reach the city gate, abruptly something happened. 3 pitch-black shadows suddenly shot out from the ruins nearby, with sharp whistling sounds, their daggers gleaming with poisoned cold light, aiming straight for my back. My pupils contracted sharply, almost instinctively. I instantly pressed the invisibility potion in my backpack, and at the same time activated the speed boost of true divine wind under my feet, moving myself sideways more than 10 meters in a split second, dodging the deadly strike. The dagger grazed my back, ripping my clothes, and leaving a shallow blood mark on my skin. A tingling itch instantly came from the wound. Its poisoned eye was startled inside. I quickly pulled out an antidote potion and drank it down. The itching finally faded away. I looked up at the 3 attackers. They were obviously stunned, seeing me vanish from where I was. Where did that kid go? He was clearly just here a moment ago. Could he be invisible? Boss said, "The hero summoned by the goddess has arrived. We must kill him before he enters the city. Otherwise, if he gets the artifact, we're all dead." He's definitely still nearby. Even if he's invisible, our detectors won't miss him. 3 of them immediately split up and started searching the area for my tracks. I'm hiding while invisible, leaning behind a broken arm statue. My heart is racing. Cold sweat is soaking my back. I didn't expect that right after arriving in this world, someone would try to kill me. And they know exactly who I am. They know I'm the hero chosen by the goddess. Who sent them? The Dark Dragon. No, the dragon is sealed in the Dragon Nest Abyss. There's no way he could reach the gates of the hero city. Could it be a traitor from inside the city? I hold my breath, watching as the 3 assassins get closer and closer. A cold, murderous intent flashes in my eyes. In the Apocalypse game, what I'm least afraid of is sneak attacks from the dark. I quietly pull out the Crimson Heaven. Adjust the angle of the cannon barrel, aim it at the assassin closest to me, and press the fire button. The high explosive shell screams through the air, instantly hitting the ground beneath that assassin's feet. A thunderous explosion erupts instantly. The assassin didn't even have time to scream, just got blown away by the shockwave of the shell. He landed hard on the ground, dying instantly. The other 2 assassins' faces changed instantly. They whipped their heads toward the direction the shell came from. Where is he? Where? Kill him, avenged third brother. The 2 shouted angrily, charging at me together. They fling their daggers, 2 pitch-black poison blades, stabbing straight toward my face. I let out a cold laugh and immediately disable my invisibility. The thunder fury in my hand instantly charges up. A blinding blue lightning bolt, with world-ending power, strikes out instantly. The lightning is way faster than their poisoned blades. They can't dodge at all, and the lightning already hits them. The 2 are instantly wrapped in lightning, screaming miserably. Their bodies convulse as they collapse on the ground. In just a few seconds, they're completely dead. 3 waves of sneak attacks, 3 moves for a counter kill, all in under a minute. I walk over to the bodies of the 3 assassins, squat down and search their pockets. In their chest, I find a black token. It has a ferocious dragon head engraved on it, and a line of small letters, Dragon Dynasty Death Squad. So they're really from the Dark Dragon. Looks like he already knew about my arrival. He knows I'm here to kill him, so he sent Death Squad agents ahead of time to wait for me here. He wanted to kill me in the cradle before I even entered the city. Too bad he underestimated me. Just as I'm stowing the token and about to head into the city, a crisp female voice suddenly calls from atop the city wall, full of vigilance and surprise. Who are you exactly? How'd you have a DDT standard weapon? And you killed the Death Squad assassins sent by the dragon. I suddenly look up at the city wall to see a young woman standing in the arrow tower. She holds a delicate longbow, staring intently at me. She radiates a battle-hardened aura, and the longbow in her hand is clearly not ordinary. Its blade glows faint blue, obviously coated with potion for fighting goblins. I slowly raise both hands, showing I mean no harm. My name's Li Tianzi. I'm the hero summoned by the goddess to defeat the dark dragon Balubados. As soon as I finish talking, the girl on the wall's pupils suddenly shrink. She watches me for a full 30 seconds, seemingly judging if I lied. Then she calls out to the soldiers guarding the gate. "Open the gate, let him in." The heavy stone city gate slowly opens. The girl brings a dozen soldiers out from within the city. They walk right up to me, scanning me up and down several times. Their gaze finally lands on the DDT gold coins in my hand. A bit of their vigilance fades from their eyes, replaced by a hint of disbelief and excitement. I nod and hand over the Dragon Dynasty Death Squad token I just got. Right at the city gate, I encountered those three ambushing me. They must have been sent by the Dark Dragon to kill me. The girl takes the token, recognizes the dragon head symbol, and instantly grits her teeth. Deep hatred flashes in her eyes. Her hand grips the bow so hard it creaks. More Dragon Dynasty Death Squads, damn them. For 3 months, they've secretly assassinated dozens of new heroes in the city. She takes a deep breath, looks at me and extends her hand to me, voice trembling a bit, but full of resolve. "Hello, Li Tianzi. My name is Leah. I'm the captain of the City of Heroes Guard, and the last sharpshooter in the world of DDT. 3 months ago, the dragon broke free of its seal. My parents, my entire clan all died in its dragon breath. My only purpose for living is to kill him and avenge my people. I've cleared the Dragon Nest dungeon 3 times, nearly died in there twice. The deepest I got was only as far as stage 2, the Dark Night Caverns. I know every weakness in the Dragon Nest, and I'm familiar with the dragon's habits." I watch her reach out her hand, see the determination and hatred in her eyes, and her longing for the light she can't hide. My heart stirs a little. In the Apocalypse game, I always planned solo, acted solo, never trusted anyone. Because I knew there could only be one winner in that game. Any ally could stab me in the back. But this is different. Leah and I share a common enemy, and a common goal. She knows this world, knows every detail of the Dragon Nest dungeon. But I have unlimited DDT points, countless items, and the tactical skills honed in the Apocalypse game. Teaming up is our best option. I reach out and take her hand, nodding. "All right, we'll kill the Dark Dragon together." I follow Leah through the gate tunnel. The walls are covered in claw marks and goo stains. Some spots still have arrows stuck inside. 2 soldiers are taking turns on guard, their posture unstable, clearly haven't slept well in ages. Leah glances at them, doesn't call for them to rest, because she knows the city doesn't have spare manpower anymore. As I pass by them, one soldier suddenly grips his spear tighter. He doesn't salute me, just quietly says, "Please do your best." These 3 words are heavier than any welcome. The soldiers behind the city gate stared at me. Some looked at me with suspicion, some with hope, and some were even trembling while holding their spears. I could hear their hushed discussions. Has the goddess's proof really appeared? But Leah didn't hesitate anymore. She turned to everyone and declared from now on, "I'm his companion." At that moment, the city gate slowly closed behind me. Ahead, the path was no longer just one person's fate, but the gamble of an entire city. Leah led me into the city. But the warrior city before me was nothing like the capital. It looked more like a ruin ravaged by fire. Broken walls lined the streets. Children huddled in the corners, clutching short boughs in their hands. Soldiers had bandages wrapped around their arms, but were still repairing the city walls. Elderly men pushed carts full of ore, their steps shaky but refusing to stop. Leah whispered to me, 3 months ago, there were hundreds of thousands of people here. Now there are less than 10,000 left. A dragon led a goblin army and massacred the whole world. The survivors are all cramped in what remains of this city. The walls break, so they repair them, but once fixed, they break again. Every crack in the wall feels like a debt paid in lives. He looked at me, his eyes pleading, begging Li Tianzi. You're a lost hope. I didn't answer immediately. I'm not a saint. I only came here to return to my parents. But every brick in this city seemed to force me to face reality. The people here have no other path. In the clothes tent on the corner, a long line of wounded soldiers waited, some missing an arm, biting cloth to stop themselves from screaming in pain. At the entrance to the blacksmith shop, teenage boys swung heavy hammers, the hammer thicker than their own arms, but they slammed it down relentlessly. A little girl clutched a rag doll, hiding behind a water bucket. She noticed the gold coins in my hand, and her eyes lit up. She asked Sister Leah, "Now that the hero is here, does that mean Daddy can come home?" Leah didn't answer. She just pulled the girl into her arms. I've seen people cry during apocalypses, but the sobs here are softer and cut deeper, like being pressed down into ashes, too afraid to make a sound. Suddenly I realized the dragon burned more than just city walls. It destroyed their very reason to live. But when I saw a child holding a broken sword, looking up at a soldier and asking if we could win tomorrow, my chest tightened. The dragon's target wasn't just here. He had his eyes on my real world too. He wants to cut off my way home. Then I'll destroy him first. Leah took me to the warrior's tavern. There was no aroma of wine, only the smell of medicine, iron, and the blood of wounds. We sat at a table by the window. Leah spread out a yellowed map. The map was covered in red marks. Every line was a path carved out by warriors risking their lives. The dragon's lair abyss has 4 stages. Stage 1 is the goblin commander, Boki. Boki drives the silver iron war chariot. The body of the chariot is invulnerable to blades and spears. Its main cannon can demolish city walls with a direct hit. Both sides are lined with hundreds of machine guns, and once the firepower opens up, not even a bird could get through. Leah pointed to the rear of the chariot, where there's a red exhaust vent, hiding a power core inside. That's its only real weak spot. The chariot is always moving, surrounded by gunners. For a normal person, hitting that spot is nearly impossible. But that's exactly what I'm best at, turning the impossible into a single trajectory. In the Doomsday game, I spent a whole year practicing wind, angles, and landings. As long as the target shows even an inch, I can send a shell right in. Stage 2 is the demon lord Dio. He hides in the dark night cavern, wielding a soul-devouring scythe. His scariest ability isn't his attack, but trapping people inside stone coffins, sealing away their skills, inventory, and gear. The more I heard, the colder my back felt, because this skill is made to counter people who rely on items. No matter how many unlimited vouchers I have, if my inventory's locked, it's like I have nothing at all. Dio clearly doesn't win by brute force. He first strips away your choices, and then steals your breath. Enemies like this are the darkest kind. He doesn't rush to win. He enjoys watching people sink into despair, bit by bit. He can even teleport targets randomly into stone cells. Teammates can't see you, and your voice can't escape. If you don't break free in a minute, the spikes inside will close in, and all you'll hear is your heartbeat swallowed by darkness. When Leah said this, her fingers clenched tight. Last time, she watched her teammate get trapped to death. I stared at the stone cell marker on the map, but my mind was surprisingly calm, because I have unlimited paper airplanes. No matter how deep the cell, space teleportation can't be stopped. Her ultimate move may be a dead end for others, but for me, it's just a new landing point. The third stage is the corrupted flame dragon's nest. Vile flame hatchlings are coiled there. The boss also has hundreds of hatchlings that self-detonate. The hatchlings pounce and explode instantly. Once the toxins touch the skin, even armor will be corroded. What's even trickier is that, as long as the boss doesn't die, the hatchlings will keep hatching. Kill 100, and another 100 pop up. Leah said. That's how the strongest party of warriors was drained to exhaustion, and finally swallowed in one gulp by the boss, burnt to ashes. I stared at the dragon's nest on the map. Fire can burn everything, but ice can freeze their feet. I have true intense fire, extreme ice and snow, and true thunder, coupled with infinite potions. I'm not afraid of him. Alright, the fourth stage is the final destination. The giant dragon Balbatos is entrenched at the summit of the nest. He has 10,000-year dragon scales, can tear through space, and can even summon a goblin army. When hit by ordinary weapons, not even a spark is left behind. The only thing that can kill him is the true Count's sword, an artifact forged by the goddess of creation. Leah took out a blueprint, exactly the same as the one the goddess gave me. Forging this sword requires 3 core materials. First is the power core from the Poke Chariot. Second is the master of the Dio soul-devouring scythe. He can suppress the dragon's magic. Third is the Dragon Flame Heart crystal of the Vile Flame Hatchling boss. It can make the sword burn with spirit-breaking fire. None of the 3 materials can be bought. They must be taken personally from the bosses of the 3 stages. I put away the blueprint, having already planned the route in my mind. Dismantle the chariot first, then slay the demon, and finally take the dragon's heart. I looked up at Leah. His fingertips were still trembling, but he didn't look away. He flattened the corners of the map, revealing several markings smeared with blood. Beside every X was a name. He said those were the warriors who failed to return. Some died in artillery fire, some died in stone coffins, and some didn't even leave behind any relics. I looked at those names, my spine tightening bit by bit. To me, this is a walkthrough. But for him, this route is a graveyard. Every stage holds people he knew. He pulled out another page of old records, which detailed the movement patterns of the Poke Chariot and the half-second shadow before the Dio stone coffin appears. I read through it page by page, finding that these records were incomplete. Some words were cut off midway, with bloodstains trailing next to the ink. Leah said many people were on the way back to the city, writing these things down with their final breath. They knew they wouldn't survive, so they wrote down the weaknesses they saw. Even if it was just a single sentence, it might save the next person. I suddenly didn't dare treat this map as just an item. It's more like a very long suicide note. Leah tapped the black dot next to the first stage with his fingertip. That was the maximum range of the Poke's main cannon. He said the shells it fires aren't ordinary shells, but they carry an ice-type slow effect. Once hit, a person's body freezes up. Then they're torn to pieces by the machine guns. Next to the second stage, countless small coffins were drawn. Each coffin corresponds to a missing warrior. The third stage had the fewest markings, not because it's easy, but because of those who saw the third stage, almost no one returned alive. The Dragon's Nest summit at the top of the map was just painted black. Leah said there were no records there, because no one had ever actually stood before the dragon. I stared at that black area, pressing my finger down slowly. Then let me fill in the final stroke. All this information was traded for with the lives of survivors. If we miss one detail, we might die one more time. I put the records into my backpack. Since they used their lives to scout the path this far, then I will finish the rest of the way. I said we'd set out first thing tomorrow morning. First stage, we'll start with the steel chariot. Just as dawn broke, Leah and I geared up and left the city. He carried a longbow, and my backpack was filled with items that could flip a city. Resistance potions, healing potions, invisibility potions. As long as it was in the shop, I bought it all. Leah watched as I pulled them out one by one, his eyes going wide. She looked like she was seeing a walking treasury. She asked me where these things came from. I jingled my voucher coins. The light in her eyes seemed to be reignited. She blurted out, "Doesn't that make us invincible?" I shook my head. It's never the items that are invincible. It's the person who knows which item to use and when. I've seen too much ugliness in apocalyptic games. They have top-tier abilities but play themselves into a bug. Some have teleportation but crash headfirst into a trap. Some have shields but forget they can get stuck. So before setting out, I categorized every item. Life-saving ones on the left, burst ones on the right, teleportation items kept close, and I even made 3 backup plans for Leah. The first set is for a frontal push. The second set is for a retreat and kite. The third set is for her sole survival if I get trapped. His expression changed when he heard about the third set. He said that situation wouldn't happen. I looked at him and said very seriously, on the battlefield you can't rely on, it won't happen. You have to rely on, I can survive even if it does happening. He was silent for a moment, then tucked the backup scrolls into his waist pouch. At that moment, he truly got into my rhythm. Before we left the city, Tony's apprentice delivered 2 war horses. The horses were brown and snow white, with light armor bound to their hooves. Leah stroked the horse's back and whispered, "In the city, it's been a long time since the best things were given to the living. Because everyone is afraid that once they're sent out, they won't come back." I fed a speed-buffing potion to the war horses. The white horse snorted steam, its eyes instantly lighting up. I told Leah, the things sent out today will all return with victory. He mounted the horse with the longbow against his back. The morning light shone on his shoulder blades, like a small patch of healing potion not covered by dark clouds. I divided them into 3 batches, 1 batch for myself, 1 for Leah, and 1 for backup. Needless to say, the invisibility potions were hung directly at the waist. Because when you're ambushed, you don't have a single second to rummage through your backpack. Leah saw how I was organizing like it was a war and gradually put away her excitement. She knew infinite vouchers weren't a reason for arrogance. They just gave me the qualification to calculate every single step to the extreme. We rode the white war horses, galloping toward the dragon's nest abyss in the north. The further north we went, the more the air felt scorched. Green grass turned into black soil. River water smelled foul. Thick, dark clouds weighed down the sky, and the wind was full of sulfur and blood. The distant roars felt like someone scraping eardrums with iron hooks. At dusk, we arrived at the canyon entrance. The rift was long and deep, like a wound torn open by a dragon's claw. The rock walls on both sides were riddled with black holes, with the sound of goblin breathing coming from inside. The entrance was littered with broken swords and spears, bones half buried in the ash. It's like a warning to those who come after us not to proceed further. Leah grips her longbow tightly. He said he entered the dragon's nest 3 times. Each time he went in from here. I activated the radar orb. The screen was instantly flooded with red dots. I quickly grabbed Leah. "Don't move, it's an ambush." Just as I finished speaking, both sides of the rock wall exploded. Over 100 goblin slaves charged out of the cave, roaring. They looked like lizards with fangs. Black venom dripped from their mouths. Their eyes were red like burning coal. Leah immediately drew her bow. He said this venom can corrode armor. "There are too many. We're surrounded." I shielded him behind me. With a flick of my wrist, 2 real fireblades appeared at the same time. The first wave of goblins pounced right in front of us. 2 fire dragons blasted out. Flames swept across the ground. A dozen monsters were instantly burned to charcoal. Leah gasped behind me. He'd never seen this kind of firepower. I shouted, "Left side is yours. Right side is mine." He immediately raised his bow. 3 enchanted arrows flew off the string at once. 3 goblins had their eye sockets burst open. Their heads exploded from the swordlight. The reputation of the last master archer was well earned. We fired back to back. I handled suppressive fire. He targeted those that slipped through. Venom sprayed at us. I activated my shield. Darkness crashed against the light, leaving nothing but sizzling white smoke. Monsters charged in. I switched to Needle Thunder. The muzzle flashed brightly. The whole ground shook with it. Half an hour later, the canyon entrance was quiet. Over 100 goblin slaves, all collapsed among the scorched rubble. Leah looked at the carnage, her voice trembling. He said in the past, they could escape after facing so many monsters. I put away my weapons. Escaping isn't my style. The real main event is deeper in the canyon. Pochi's war chariot already knows we're coming. I crouched down to inspect the goblin corpses. All of them had a brand on their necks. exactly the same as the dragon head on the Death Servant token. This means Berubetos' army isn't just large. He's turned the entire dragon's nest into layer after layer of a sieve. The goblin slaves at the entrance weren't meant to kill us. They were meant to slow us down and drain our potions. If ordinary warriors got hurt here, they wouldn't even have the energy to dodge the cannons when facing the war chariot later. I told Laya this point. His expression darkened. He quickly checked his sword belt and potions. He counted the swords fast. Regular sword, armor-piercing sword, holy sword, and explosive sword. Each one was individually secured. I noticed. He placed an old sword in the most accessible spot. A faded red cord was tied to its hilt. Laya whispered. That was his father's sword. He never had the heart to use it. I didn't try to persuade him. Because I know some weapons aren't meant to harm others. They're meant to give people the courage to keep moving forward. He said before. Each time, the monsters at the entrance exhausted them. By the time they faced Pochi, they had no full fighting strength left. I looked toward the dark smoke deep in the canyon. Turns out the first stage starts right at the entrance. I took out an anti-venom spray from my backpack. Sprayed it along the gaps in my armor. The goblin venom didn't penetrate the shield, but its smell will attract more monsters. Laya quickly handled his arrowheads too. He wiped the blood off the arrows and put the ones still good back in the quiver. This thriftiness made me feel a bit sad. For me, arrows can be bought. For him, each one was made by the town blacksmiths working late into the night. I handed him a full set of top-tier enchanted arrows. He was stunned for a long time before carefully accepting them.
He said once this battle is over,
He'll let the kids in the city see these swords, to show them that a warrior's blade can shine this bright. We kept moving deeper inside. The ground began to shake. The sound of steel crushing rocks echoed from afar.
10 minutes later,
A wide clearing appeared before us. The steel war machine looked like a moving fortress, blocking the center of the canyon. Taki was standing on top of the war machine, wearing a pirate hat, waving his command sword. He screamed, telling the gunners to aim at me. The war machine was over 10 meters high and dozens of meters long. Its body was full of dark holes. The main turret bore scorched marks on its barrel. Laya lowered his voice. Did you see the red heat vent at the rear? That's where the power core is. I glanced over. The rear was guarded layer upon layer. The war machine kept moving. Regular folks really can't hit it. But to me, its path had already turned into a string of numbers. Wind direction, distance, speed, angle 50 degrees, 45 minutes. That's it. Goblin guards spotted me. The next second, artillery fire rained down on me like a storm. I grabbed Laya's shield, instantly setting it up under my feet. Speed boost activated. We rolled behind a giant boulder. Shells exploded at where we just stood, blasting a huge crater. One whizzed past, grazing Laya's cheek, leaving a thin, bloody mark. He turned pale. He said that was the same firepower as last time, and half a squad was wiped out in just one barrage. I focused on the war machine, my lips pressed tight. It's fierce firepower, but just a noisy iron coffin. I slapped on max-level power gems, then added a critical rune true wind sky. The turret glowed orange-red. The war machine kept pushing forward, its treads crushing the ground, like it intended to flatten the whole canyon. Every inch the turret rotated, the air grew tenser. I didn't fire right away, because the heat vent only shows at a stable angle, when the war machine turns. Taki was cunning.
he always kept the rear close against the canyon wall.
Regular shots couldn't get around it at all. But the canyon wind blew from the left rear side. As long as the shell veered just a bit, it could ride the wind and drill straight into the heat vent. This shot wasn't luck. It was calculated with his arrogant terrain and the wind included. I told Laya to go on my count of 3, draw the fire away, and pull all the turrets toward him. He didn't hesitate.
He said, "Leave it to me."
I'm a sharpshooter. 3, 2, 1. He burst out from behind the boulder, pulling his longbow to the max. Dozens of enchanted arrows shot out together. The machine guns on the war machine's front exploded on the spot. Taki stomped in rage. All the turrets instantly swiveled, shells chasing Laya in explosions. He rolled through the smoke, his sword flashes cutting through the dark mist again and again. When Laya dashed out to draw fire, my heart raced with his every move. He darted through the shellfire, almost knocked over by shock waves several times. An ice shell exploded right by his foot. The ground frosted up instantly. His speed clearly slowed a beat. I knew I couldn't wait for the machine to turn any longer. In the next second, the heat vent would retreat to its original spot. I held my breath, finger pressing on the trigger. The whole world stretched into one line, with the red dot turret right at its end. With one lift, the war machine's rear was locked by me. Now's the time. I loaded the highest grade armor-piercing shell, aimed true needle sky at the rear. The red dot cannon roared. Armor-piercing shell slipped through the gap in the shelling, like a red-hot nail, drilling straight into the heat vent. Boom! A red light burst from inside the war machine. Taki's screams rang out clearly through the iron clouds. The engine stopped. Black smoke poured from the heat vent. The whole machine started convulsing. The guards turned to spot me, roaring as they lunged. I shot arrows left and right. 2 blasts of true fierce fire blocked the path. A sea of flames swallowed up the goblins. They couldn't even take a second step. The next second, explosions rocked inside the war machine. The iron cloud shell blew apart in pieces. Taki and his iron fortress both became scrap metal. Stage 1 cleared. Laya rushed over, his eyes glowing bright red. He said we really destroyed the steel war machine. Only when the wreckage was completely burnt out did I walk into the black smoke, each step crunching on scorching hot metal scraps. White smoke rose from the soles of my boots. I entered the wreckage, braving the heat wave, and dug out a fist-sized red crystal. Got the war machine's power core. One material secured. But from deeper in the canyon, demon laughter echoed. That laughter crawled down my neck like a cold, wet hand, sliding down my nape. The second roundio is waiting for me. We patched up quickly and moved on. The deeper we went, the darker the light got. The ground turned slippery, and the canyon walls seemed to absorb all sound. The temperature kept dropping bit by bit. Even our breath turned into white mist. Laya lowered his voice to the minimum. He said Dio could hide in any shadow. Time would rise from beneath our feet and fall from overhead. If it closed, everyone inside couldn't even open their backpack. I activated radar gems, but the screen was blank. Laya shook her head. No use, it blocks detection. Only shows itself when attacking. I put away the radar and fired a flare into the darkness. The instant the white light burst, the whole canyon felt peeled open. Bats hung everywhere on the canyon walls. The demon hovered mid-air, a figure in a red robe suspended there. He only revealed one eye, the soul-devouring scythe in his hand dripping black mist. The black mist touched the stone walls, immediately carving small holes. Dio spoke, his voice like sandpaper grinding bone. He said the last squad's bones were ground to dust by him. I didn't waste words. True, thunder struck with a raise of my hand. Blue lightning tore across the air, but only shattered a phantom. The real Dio had vanished into the darkness. Too slow his laughter came from all directions. The next second, 2 cracks opened at my feet. Stone coffins rose up simultaneously, one facing me, one facing Laya. I instantly tossed a paper plane. White light flashed, teleporting me 3 meters away. But Laya was half a beat slow. The stone coffin swallowed him up. Thumps came from inside, followed by the metallic screech of spikes retracting. Laya shouted through the stone, "Coffin, don't worry about me. Just kill him first." His voice was shaking, but he still wanted me to survive. I stared at the stone coffin. The fire in my eyes blazed instantly. "I've got just 1 minute, 1 minute." Dio saw I'd dodged the coffin. He swung his scythe. A black crack opened behind me, and the stone coffin slammed shut around me. Cold stone walls surrounded me. The sound of spikes retracting echoed nearby. Dio's voice rang out through the wall. He said that little girl has 40 seconds left. And you will die here too. I let out a cold laugh. You're not qualified to trap me. The paper airplane flew out. Spatial ripples unfolded. I instantly returned to the canyon. Dio's smile froze. For the first time, he showed panic. Not believing it, he threw me into the second sarcophagus again. I transmitted back again. Third, fourth, and fifth sarcophagus. No matter how many times he teleported me, I came back that many times. After over a dozen rounds, Dio's breathing grew heavy. The black mist on his scythe also thinned. The voice from inside Leah's sarcophagus became more urgent. He couldn't hold out much longer. I deliberately left an opening, letting Dio drag me into the sarcophagus once again. In that moment, I could even hear Leah's banging inside the sarcophagus getting shorter. Her time was being eaten away by the spikes bit by bit, but I couldn't be impatient. The more anxious I was, the more Dio would lead me on. I had to make him believe that he had cornered me, and I could only keep teleporting. Only then would he reveal his true position. Sure enough, Dio took the bait. His real body stepped half a step out of the shadows. The tip of his scythe aimed at the sarcophagus, ready to watch the final second. That half step cost him his life. He thought I'd teleport back as usual. But this time, I crushed the invisibility potion first. A flash of white light passed. I didn't appear in front of him. I appeared behind him. The true thunderbolt was already fully charged. I aimed at his back and fired lightning directly. Dio was instantly swallowed by lightning. His red robe was blasted through. Black blood spurted everywhere.
He screamed and fell, dropping the Soul Devourer's scythe.
It crashed to the ground from his hand. Phase 2 boss. Demon Lord Dio has fallen. The sarcophagus trapping Leah shattered instantly. He staggered out. The first thing he said wasn't a cry of pain, but to rush over and ask if I was okay. I watched him exhale deeply. Thank goodness we made it in time. Only 3 seconds to spare. The remaining bat demons tried to flee. Leah and I attacked at the same time. Lightning swept across the rock walls. Holy, light swords picked them off one by one. Half an hour later, the demon lair was completely silent. Leah cut down the Soul Devourer's scythe next to Dio's corpse. She cautiously handed it to me. The second core material was secured. Now only the Dragonflame Star Crystal remains. As long as we get it, the true Count's sword can be forged. At the end of the canyon stood a stone gate dozens of meters tall. Scorching steam poured out from the crack in the door. Next up was Phase 3. The fiery dragon's lair, from which no warrior ever returned alive. We didn't rush in recklessly. Night fell. Leah and I found a secluded cave to rest. The campfire's light flickered on her pale face. She was cleaning her longbow, but her gaze was fixed on the stone gate. She said the Eyebane dragonling was terrifying. Even the 3 strongest warriors in the past never even saw the boss's face and were exhausted to death by the dragonling. I looked at the blueprint, my voice sounding steady. There's no such thing as an immortal boss. Only bosses whose weaknesses haven't been found. Leah. She was still worried the dragonling would rush over and self-destruct with poisonous mist, which could corrode our skin. I gave a faint smile and said no more. In my mind, I'd already figured out the perfect tactics. I'll activate 3 max-level defense scrolls at once, triple energy shields forming together. The main dragon's flames surge, and the first assault of the dragonlings will be met with true blaze pushing back the crimson flood, directly facing the dragonling boss's world-burning flames, then using absolute ice to freeze the oncoming dragonling horde. And finally, True Thunderbolt will target the dragon boss's weak point. All 3 legendary weapons will be charged and unleashed in sync, wiping out all the dragonlings in one strike, and slay the boss. Just then, light footsteps were heard outside the cave. The flames caused the radar to flicker. A dozen red dots were approaching on the orb. The Dragon Court's death squad was on our trail. Leah and I exchanged a glance, and drank the invisibility potion at the same time. Our bodies melted into the air. Even our breathing slowed to a whisper. A few seconds later, over a dozen black-clad assassins crept into the cave. Behind their demon masks, only cold, emotionless eyes were visible. They held poison-tipped daggers and waved detection orbs, searching everywhere. The leader spoke in a low voice, but couldn't hide his ruthlessness.
He said they had to strike before we challenged the third phase.
Or else, once the legendary weapon emerged, the great Dragon Lord would be furious. They closed in step by step. I held my breath, waiting until the nearest assassin was right in front of me. The next second, I disabled invisibility. The true Skybreaker cannon pressed against his abdomen. The cannon blast thundered inside the cave. He didn't even have time to scream, before collapsing by the wall. Almost simultaneously, Leah fired 3 arrows, killing 3 at the throat. The remaining assassins woke with a start, and drew their blades to attack. Firelight and sword glints flashed together in the cave. True blaze sealed off the cave entrance. Holy light blades shot through the smoke. In less than 10 minutes, only the last assassin was left. I pinned him against the rock wall with my cannon barrel. Removed his mask, revealing a twisted, ferocious face. I asked him what else the Dragon Lord knew, and what the actual weakness of the third phase was. At first, he wouldn't talk, but when the cannon touched his throat, his eyes went wild. Trembling, he said, "The Dragonlings in Phase 3 seem like they can regenerate forever, but the key is the boss's heart in its chest. If you destroy its source heart, even if the body remains intact, it will instantly die and fall. And once the boss is dead, the root of the Dragonling's endless spawning is cut off." With that, the last piece of the puzzle fell into place in my mind. Phase 3 was no longer a dead end. I gave him a swift death. Leah looked at me, her eyes full of joy. I lowered my head and looked at the 3 weapons. True Blaze, Absolute Ice, and True Thunderbolt. Tomorrow, I'll send that fiery dragonling that killed countless warriors, and its boss, back to the darkness. Early the next morning, we stood in front of the massive stone gate. The dragon's head over the door was carved ferociously with an open mouth, like it could snap down any moment. Leah gripped her holy light longbow tightly. She asked if I was ready. I nodded, stuffed a thick stack of scrolls into her hand. "You don't need to attack later, just keep shielding and healing us. Use the enhancement scrolls as much as you want. Don't hold back, use them nonstop." Leah nodded hard, her eyes sharper than the dragon carving on the door. Together we pushed the stone gate open. The heavy scraping sounded like a gigantic beast waking up. Behind the door was a huge circular plaza, the sky darkened by purple flames. Hundreds of fiery dragonlings circled in the air. A dragonling over 30 meters long lay in the center. The boss spread its wings. A wave of heat rushed straight at our faces.
He opened his massive jaws and roared, "Pathetic humans."
"How dare you invade my lair?" Courting death, purple dragon flames burst forth. The column of fire was over 10 meters wide. It looked like a blaze that could swallow a city. I shouted, "Attack!" Leah instantly tore open a defensive scroll. 3 layers of shields, gold, silver, and blue stacked up in front of us. Dragonfire crashed into the shield, hissing loudly. The light shield shuddered under the heat, but held strong. The ground outside the shield had already melted. Rocks turned into dark red lava. Even with 3 layers of protection, the heat stung our faces. Leah's hands never stopped moving. She tore open scroll after scroll. Shreds of paper flew around her like snowflakes. The hatchling dragons began to change direction. They stopped diving from above and started gliding along the ground. They tried to sneak into the shield's blind spots. Hundreds of hatchling dragons attacked at once. Their bodies swelled, getting ready to self-destruct. I yelled, "Keep the shields up. Don't stop." Leah's hands moved so fast they left only after images. Layer after layer of shields stacked up like transparent city walls. Hatchling dragons exploded in a chain outside. Toxic mist covered the entire plaza. I stood in the center of the shield. All three of my weapons were drawn at once. Fiery red, icy blue, and electric purple flashed together. True blaze crimson flames blasted out. I faced the boss head-on. Violet dragon fire stream. The two streams of fire collided and exploded mid-air. The heat wave hurled debris everywhere. It felt like the whole plaza was about to tip over. Lifting the lid, I launched the second strike. Absolute frost and icy windstorm swept across the entire area. Charging hatchling dragons were frozen into ice sculptures one by one. Their self-destructs were forcefully stopped. Their wings were still spread, but their bodies froze mid-air. The third strike, true thunderbolt. A dark purple streak of lightning formed at the barrel's tip, locking onto the boss's soft belly armor. I shouted, Laya. The final power boost. She gritted her teeth and tore open 3 power scrolls. And 3 speed scrolls. Golden light rained down on me. The true thunderbolt's muzzle blazed with blinding light. Take all 3 attacks. I fired them again at the same time. Blaze for suppression. Ice for control. Thunder for the killing blow. The dragon boss flapped its wings wildly, trying to dodge. But the fire pinned down its dragon flame. Its scales cracked under the ice.
Its belly was struck by lightning.
It let out a piercing shriek. Its massive body crashed to the ground. The entire plaza shook with it. The boss fell. All the hatchling dragons instantly lost their power. The frozen statues shattered with a crack and turned into piles of black dust. Stage 3 boss, Evil Flame Dragon Lord. Boss defeated. Laya was stunned for a full 30 seconds. Then she burst into tears and laughter. She said we made it through. The deadly gauntlet that no one ever survived. We broke through it. I walked over to the leader's corpse, cut it open with my dagger. The scalding hot chest cavity, hot steam rushed over me, almost burning the back of my hand. Deep inside the heart, a fist-sized crystal was beating, violet flames swirling within. Like an indestructible star, we obtained the heart of Dragonfire crystal. It pulsed in my palm, as if trying to escape. I placed the Dragonfire star crystal deep in my bag. Suddenly, all 3 materials began to resonate slightly. Steel War Chariot Power Core, Soul Reaper Scythe. Now we finally had all 3 materials. The principal Dragonfire star crystal. I looked up toward the far end of the plaza. There was a staircase there, leading directly to the Dragon's Nest summit. But I didn't head up immediately. The divine weapon wasn't forged yet. To rush in now would be a death sentence. I said to Laya, let's return to Warrior City and find the best master blacksmith. Once the true Count's sword is born, it will be the end of the evil dragon. We mounted the Gale war horses and rushed half a day back to Warrior City. The soldiers atop the city gate saw us first and were completely stunned. The next second, cheers erupted from the city walls, like fire leaping from dry twigs, instantly spreading through the city. They're back. They've overcome the 3 trials of the Dragon Dynasty. Both sides of the street were packed with residents, some with canes, some holding children, but every eye was shining with tears. 3 months had passed. For the first time, they saw that dragons were not invincible. Victoria waved to the crowd. His eyes were red, yet his smile never faded. I watched this scene and felt a gentle jolt in my heart. In the Doomsday game, everyone wants to win, and everyone wants to survive at someone else's expense. But these people placed their last hope in my hands. That weight is heavier than any divine weapon. We didn't linger, went straight to the forge workshop. The best blacksmith in the city was named Tony. He was a gray-haired dwarf, with arms thicker than most people's legs. One swing of his hammer, sparks would fly as high as a person. When he saw the blueprints and materials in my bag, his eyes lit up immediately. Even his breathing became heavy. With trembling hands, he picked up the blueprints. That's right, the goddess of creation's divine weapon. He then picked up all 3 materials. His voice was hoarse. It's been 10,000 years. At last, this sword has a chance to see the light again. I pushed the materials in front of him. Master Tony, I'm counting on you. Tony nodded solemnly. He said that even if it costs him his life, he would forge the true Count's sword. With that said, he immediately gathered all the apprentices in the workshop and began preparations to forge the divine weapon. Forging the true Count's sword was extremely demanding. First, use the steel war chariot core with silver iron, hammered 1,000 times at extreme temperatures, forming an unbreakable blade. Next, combine the Soul Reaper scythe and dragon bone to craft the hilt. Meticulously forge the sword handle, with not even a fraction of error allowed. Finally, polish the Dragonfire Heart crystal from the young evil dragon leader. Embed it in the sword hilt, giving the weapon the power to pierce armor and burn evil, enough to slash through dragon scales. Master Tony and his apprentices forged day and night without rest. The forging sounds rang out for 3 days and nights. The people of Warrior City also waited outside for 3 days and nights. On the morning of the 3rd day, the first ray of sunlight shone into the workshop. A red glow suddenly appeared in the quenching pool. Master Tony's hands trembled. He lifted out a long sword from the pool. The blade was slender, red light flowing through it. The dragon tendon in the hilt pulsed like a heart. The true Count's sword was complete. Tony's eyes filled with tears. When the crowd outside heard the news, cheers rolled like thunder through the streets. I stepped forward, gripped the sword's hilt. The blade felt cool, but the weight was just right. At that moment, I could feel even my tokens and coins heating up. It was as if across fate, they resonated together. With this sword, a dragon's scales are no longer an iron wall, and its heart is no longer out of reach. Laya had also finished preparing, her eyes filled with unwavering resolve, determined to fight by my side and slay the evil dragon. I gripped the true Count's sword tightly in my hand and reminded Master Tony, the goblin army under the dragon might try to attack while we're away. Told him to lead all the citizens in defending the city. Tony tightened his grip on his hammer and nodded firmly.
He said, "Hero, don't worry.
We'll be waiting for your triumphant return." I said nothing more, mounted my horse with Leah, and charged north once again. This time the wind carried more than just the smell of sulfur. There was a surge of fighting spirit. Great dragon Balibetos, your end is here. Half a day later we returned to the entrance of the dragon's nest abyss. But this time, the canyon was eerily quiet. No goblins. No bad demons. Not even a dragon's roar. Even the wind felt strangled. Laya frowned. It's too quiet. The dragon knows we're here. I activated the radar orb. The entire canyon. Only one huge red dot pulsed at the summit. He didn't lay any ambush. He was waiting for me atop the mountain. That's arrogance. And a declaration of war. He simply doesn't believe a human could drive a sword into his heart. Precisely because of that, I couldn't let my guard down. A truly strong enemy. Even their silence could be a trap. We passed through the ruins of the first 3 trials and arrived at the steps leading to the summit. The stone steps beneath our feet were dangerously narrow. The wind howled up from the abyss, like countless people crying below. Laya and I began to ascend step by step. Neither of us spoke. Halfway up, a dragon's roar erupted from the mountain peak. The entire mountain trembled. The next moment, black dragon breath came storming down from the clouds, like a river of burning black, rushing straight at us. Laya's face went pale in an instant. She shouted at me to move. But the stone steps had already crumbled. In front was dragon's breath. Behind was the abyss. We had nowhere to go. In the nick of time, I grabbed Laya in my arms, threw out the infinite paper airplane. The paper plane skimmed through the black smoke, landing on a protruding rock above. I didn't even dare to breathe that second. If the dragon's breath burned the plane, we'd disappear in an instant. Right before the white flash appeared, I could almost smell the scent of my singed jacket. Leah was gripping my arm tightly, her nails almost digging into my flesh. She wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid we'd die before even seeing the dragon. I patted him on the shoulder. Don't worry. The only one dying will be him. We stopped climbing. The stone steps beneath our feet had been destroyed. The cliff face had been scorched soft by the dragon's breath. The stairs were gone, so we won't use the stairs. I threw out another paper airplane, aimed straight at the peak of the dragon's nest. A white light pierced through the black smoke, landing on the plaza at the summit. The next second, I teleported up there with Laya in my arms. Just as we found our footing, Laya's terrifying aura pressed down on my chest. It felt like a mountain crashed right onto me. In the center of the plaza coiled a gigantic jet-black dragon. His body was over 100 meters long. Black dragon scales layered across his body. Massive dragon wings were folded on his back. Scarlet eyes locked onto us. Each breath spat out black smoke. This was Barubatos, the ultimate catastrophe of Egg Hall World.
He lowered his head to look at me.
His voice made my eardrums ache. Outsider human. You actually made it here alive. He said it was you who killed my guards, destroyed my chariot, and broke off the goddess's ruined sword. I raised the sword of the true count, aimed the tip right at him. Barubatos, your glory days are over. Today I'll end this disaster with this sword. The dragon suddenly burst out laughing. Rock fragments jumped from the force of his laughter. The entire mountaintop shook. He said that 10,000 years ago, even the goddess of creation could only seal him away. Now the goddess is dead. What makes you think you can kill him? He stood up. His enormous shadow covered half the plaza. Those red eyes were full of disdain. Then he said something that made my heart clench.
He said he could help me return to the real world.
Return to my parents' side. As long as I kneel and become his servant. He could even give me back the home I want most. He actually knows. My parents, he knows about them. My deepest obsession. I gripped the sword hilt tighter. My knuckles turned white, but I quickly smiled. My parents aren't my weakness. They're why I have to win. I sneered coldly. You want me to surrender? You're not worthy. The dragon roared in fury. Black dragon flames spewed out again. The ground instantly melted into lava. I shoved Laya aside. Infused with true divinity, I burst into speed. My body shot sideways. The dragon's breath swept past me. Laya immediately drew her bow. A dozen enchanted swords fired at once. At Barubatos' massive wings, a black hurricane exploded out. Before the arrows got close, they were shredded to dust. Then the dragon's tail lashed at Laya like a steel whip. If that struck her, she'd be smashed to pieces on the spot. My pupils contracted. I lifted the true thunder cannon and fired. The shell exploded on the dragon's tail. Didn't break it, but pushed the tail an inch aside. And that 1 inch saved Laya's life. The dragon's tail slammed into the ground. Cracks instantly spread across half the plaza. Laya retreated behind me. Her face had turned pale. I shouted for her to grab his wings. Don't let him take to the air. I poured all my power into the sword of the true count. The dragon crystal on the hilt lit up. Lightning of 3 colors wrapped around the blade. I aimed for the dragon's chest and slashed out the first arc of sword light. A crimson blade beam tore through the air. With a metallic clang, the sword light struck the black scales. Without leaving the slightest mark, my heart suddenly sank. Turns out the sword of the true count couldn't pierce his scales. The dragon laughed crazily. He said even a divine weapon depends on the wielder. In my hands, it's just a tickle to him. The next moment, black fireballs rained down like a storm. Blades of wind sealed us in on all sides. All escape routes were cut off. I activated all my defenses. Layers of orb shields stacked up in front of us. As the attacks crashed down, explosions boomed nonstop. Cracks spider-webbed across the shield. A sweet taste filled my throat. Blood spewed from my mouth. He's too strong, nothing like the monsters from the earlier stages. Just as the shield was about to shatter, Laya suddenly yelled. His weakness is the reverse scale at his heart. I jerked my head up. Sure enough, right in the center of his chest was a white scale, as big as a palm. It's not that the sword isn't powerful. It's that I haven't hit his weak spot. But just as I spotted it, the shield shattered with a boom. Black fire and wind blades came crashing down together. I grabbed Laya and held her tight, using my back to shield us from the first blast. Debris and flames slammed into my back. The pain nearly blacked out my vision. It felt like my bones were being wrenched apart. I spat out another mouthful of blood. My knees almost gave out. Laya, eyes red, called my name. I gritted my teeth and stood up, wiped the blood from my lips. I can't fall. For her, for the city, and for my parents in the real world. The dragon looked down at us, sneering as he urged me to kneel.
He said, resist all you want.
Neither you nor Laya will leave anything but corpses. I didn't answer. I took out a top-grade healing potion and chugged it down. The warm medicinal power surged through my entire body. The burns healed. Broken bones reset. My stamina was completely restored. For the first time, surprise flashed in the dragon's eyes. But instantly, there was even fiercer rage. He opened his massive jaws, conjured a black dragon breath even more terrifying than before. Even space itself began to distort. I knew I couldn't withstand the next strike head-on. I had to bet on 1 second. I activated all my defensive orbs, built a thick shield wall in front of me, then shouted at Laya to shoot its eye. "Give me 1 second." Laya didn't ask why. He pulled the bow to its absolute limit. The holy light sword on the string glowed like a mini sun. The arrow shot out, breaking through the wind, aimed straight at the dragon's left eye. Barobatos instinctively closed his eyes. His head tilted to the side slightly. That was the 1 second. I threw out a paper airplane, activated teleportation. My body vanished instantly. When I reappeared, I was right next to the dragon's chest. The reverse scale was right in front of my eyes, less than 3 meters away. The dragon realized what was happening. His pupils shrank suddenly. He opened his mouth to unleash dragon breath, but it was already too late. I poured all my power into the true Count's sword. Flames and frost. Holy radiance from the thunder goddess coin. The instant the sword stabbed into the reverse scale, I felt like my entire arm was about to shatter. The power in the dragon's heart was pushing back. It was like thousands of thunders bursting outward. I didn't let go. Both feet braced on his chest scales, letting the black blood splatter over my armor. Barubetos' entire body suddenly went rigid. His seven-force dragon roar tore out. The black clouds over the mountain summit were scattered. He lowered his head to look at the light coming from his chest. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. Black blood gushed from the corner of his mouth. He couldn't believe it. He actually lost to a mere human. The great dragon slowly collapsed. His massive body crashed hard onto the plaza, shaking the whole mountain. The crimson eyes slowly dimmed. Final boss. The great dragon Barubatos has been slain. I looked at the fallen dragon. My taut nerves finally relaxed. My legs went weak and I nearly collapsed. Laya rushed over to support me. He looked at the dragon's corpse. Tears fell one by one. He cried and laughed at the same time. He said, "Li Tianzi, we won." I looked at him and laughed too. Yeah, we won. This disaster that hung over Candy Town world for 3 months finally ended. The children of Hero City no longer have to sleep hugging broken swords. The soldiers on the city wall don't have to wait for another breath attack. And I can finally go home. It was at that moment. The ticket coin at my chest lit up. The silhouette of the golden goddess appeared before me again. This time, there was no exhaustion on his face. Only a gentle smile.
He said, "Hero Li Tianzi."
You have completed the trial. You have slain the dragon. You have saved this world. Now he will fulfill his promise. Grant me true resurrection rights. Send me back to the real world. Golden light enveloped my body. The sounds of wind, blood, and smoke all began to fade away. I turned to look at Laya. He stood outside the light. There was reluctance in his eyes, but he still tried to smile. I said, "Laya, goodbye. Take care of Hero City for me." He nodded hard. He said, "Have a safe journey. Make sure you live well with your family." I didn't say anything else. Turned and stepped into the golden light. I snapped my eyes open. What I saw wasn't Dragon Dynasty, nor was it the ruined city. I stood at the entrance of my apartment building, still holding the box of strawberry cake I bought for my mom. I looked around. There was the familiar corner store, familiar apartment buildings, grandparents basking in the sun at the entrance. The same orange cat still lying on the e-bike seat downstairs. Its tail lazily swished. Someone on the street was carrying groceries. Someone was on the phone. Someone was complaining about the heat. All the sounds blended together, so noisy that my eyes filled with tears. I stood where I was, like a ghost suddenly stumbling back into the world, not willing to blink. Everything felt so real it made me tremble. I took out my phone. The screen showed 5:30 p.m., June 18th, 2025, the very day of my accident. But standing at the building entrance for real, I was actually afraid to go upstairs. The cake box in my hand was squeezed out of shape. The cream was about to ooze out. I heard a neighbor closing their door in the hallway. The elevator display ticked down 1 floor at a time. Everything was so normal it felt unreal. I looked down at my own hands. No burns, no blood, no sword calluses or cracks.
Tears burst out all at once.
I rushed into the building like a maniac. The elevator doors opened. I rushed to my own front door. The familiar security door made my chest ache. With trembling hands, I took out my keys. Click, the door opened. A warm yellow light poured out. Dad was sitting on the couch reading the newspaper. He looked up and smiled when he heard me. He said, "Why are you back so early today?" Mom came out of the kitchen carrying braised pork. There was still a spot of oil on her apron. She smiled and scolded me. "Why didn't you let us know you were coming home? Hurry and wash your hands. The braised pork is just out of the pot." I looked at their faces. The tears came flooding back. I rushed forward to hug them. "Mom, Dad, I'm home. I missed you so much." They were stunned by my hug. Dad gently patted my back. Mom stroked my head. She asked if I had suffered lately. They didn't know. I'd been through the apocalypse, through the Dragon Dynasty, survived death over and over again. I shook my head and wiped away the tears. "Today is my birthday. I want to eat the dumplings you make, Mom." Mom smiled and gently tapped my nose, then turned back into the kitchen. Such doting affection. Dad pulled me over to the couch, poured some warm water, and asked with a smile what happened today. I didn't mention the Doomsday Game, nor did I talk about Candytown World, much less told them of the adventures and near-death battles. I didn't want my parents to worry, didn't want them to know that their son had wandered at the edge of life and death countless times. I only chatted with them about daily life, about work, about the little things in life. Things I used to think were dull and boring now became my most cherished sense of peace. The dinner table was full of my favorite foods. Mom cooked a steaming bowl of longevity noodles. Dad poured some juice. Our family smiled and sang the birthday song for me, eating mouthfuls of longevity noodles, watching my smiling parents. My heart was filled with warmth and contentment. So this is the life I've truly dreamed of, and the safe harbor I fought so hard to return to. After dinner, I returned to my room. I sat at my desk. I took out the egg candy token that had been with me for over a year. The gold coin still glowed with a gentle light. The infinite power inside had never faded. A faint smile appeared on my face. I put it away in the deepest part of the drawer. That thrilling, otherworldly journey had finally come to a close. I'm no longer the mastermind in the apocalypse, nor the savior of the egg candy world. From now on, I'm just the ordinary Li Tianqi. All I want is to stay close to my parents and live a peaceful life, together year after year. The sound of my mom washing dishes comes from the kitchen. My dad's TV is playing in the living room. Everyday family moments. All is calm and peaceful. Everything is safe and beautiful. I lean back in my chair and close my eyes peacefully. "Mom, Dad, I'm home. This time I'll never leave again. I'll be by your side forever." When I open my eyes again, the floor under my feet is no longer the wooden boards of home, but the stone streets of Warrior City. My first instinct is to clench my fists. No, something is very wrong. There's no war here, no smoke and fire, no goblins howling. The flower baskets on the street are neatly arranged. The fountain is clear. The sky is so blue it looks freshly polished. But the more peaceful it seems, the colder my back feels. Because everyone on the street is smiling. But that's not the smile of the living. It's the curve of a mouth pulled up by strings. The bread seller hands out bread mechanically, takes it back, then hands it out again, repeating the motion over and over. Patrolling soldiers pass by me, their steps so synchronized it's like they were stamped from a mold. A child stands by the fountain clapping, but there's no light in their empty eyes. I called out loudly, but no one turned around. I rushed over to an old man and patted his shoulder hard. His eyes didn't move, and his mouth just repeated, "Warrior City is very peaceful." Goosebumps crept up my scalp as I heard it. This isn't peace.
The whole city
Has been forced into a beautiful cage. Just then, the clock tower in the center of town suddenly chimed. Everyone stopped moving at the same time and turned their heads in unison to look at me. Their faces were still smiling, but their eyes were completely lifeless. The moment the entire city stared at me, I knew I hadn't returned to peace. I'd fallen into a dream spun by the goddess herself. Instinctively, I took half a step back. My fingers searched my waist. All I felt was the egg candy token burning in my palm. The next second, the people on the street moved again, like their strings were cut. Their actions resumed. The bread seller kept handing out bread. The soldiers kept patrolling. The child kept clapping. As if that single moment had been my imagination. But I don't believe in illusions. I rushed to the forge. That's the place I know best. Master Tony was there, when the three materials were fused into the true Count's sword. As long as he's still clear-headed, I can figure out what's really going on here. The workshop doors were wide open, the furnace blazing hot. Tony stood at the anvil, hammering away, striking a piece of scrap iron that would never change shape. Each blow was so precisely timed it made my heart ache. I rushed over and grabbed his arm. Master Tony, it's me, Li Tianqi. I'm back.
His hammer froze midair.
His eyes slowly turned toward me. He opened his mouth, and all he said was, "Warrior City is very peaceful." I started shaking him hard. Look at me. What about the true Count's sword? What about Leah? Do you remember us clearing the dragon's nest together? Tony didn't react. His hammer came down again. I looked down at the anvil and realized it wasn't iron at all, but a broken golden rune. Every strike, the rune glowed. It was as if it was transmitting some power into the city. Just as I reached out to touch it, an orderly set of footsteps sounded outside the door. A dozen guards stood at the workshop entrance, stiff faces grinning in unison. Those who disrupt peace must be corrected by the goddess. I clenched my teeth. Once, the goddess brought me to this world, called me a hero, told me to slay the dragon, and save Warrior City. But now the dragon is dead. The city is alive, and she's locked away everyone's mind. What made my blood run cold was that in this whole city, there wasn't a single trace of Leah. The fountain steps she loved to sit on, the tavern corner we once fixed together, the ramparts where she often practiced swordplay, every place she'd ever been, was completely empty now. I searched the tavern, searched the city walls, ran down every single street we walked before our first battle together. But everyone reacted the same way at the mention of Leah. They would pause, then smile, and finally reply in a hollow voice. There's no such person in Warrior City. No such person. No such person. No such person. My chest felt like it was being sliced open again and again. The girl who, even under Dragon Creek, still had to check if the true Count's sword was lost. The sharpshooter who fought through the chariot crypt and the dragon's nest with me had been completely wiped from this city. Just as despair was about to overwhelm me, a paper airplane suddenly flew in from an alley. It lightly bumped into my shoe. I picked up the paper airplane. The moment my fingers touched the paper, the familiar ripple of space spread out between my fingers. That folding style was unmistakable. It was the type of teleportation I used during the Dragon War to save Leah paper airplanes. 4 characters were written on the paper, Warrior's secret realm, but there was also a bloody scratch at one corner. Leah was in trouble. No more hesitation. I rushed along the shadows of the wall toward the west of the city. The secret realm is in the farthest corner of Warrior City. It used to be just a place for rookie heartbreaks. Later, it became the crossing point between reality and the E-Gandhi world. The temple doesn't control it, and it's not fully invaded by foreign divine power. The closer I got to the secret realm, the fewer people there were on the street, until even the patrols disappeared. Only an old stone gate stood in the mist, with a faint glow leaking from its cracks. I was just about to go in. Suddenly, a little girl's voice sounded behind me. "Brother, it's not peaceful over there." I whipped around. The little girl by the fountain, clapping her hands, stood at a distance. Her face still wore a stiff smile. Yet a tear actually slipped from the corner of her eye. Her lips were trembling, as if something was tearing her apart from within. The words "save us" had just left her lips. The light in her eyes immediately went out. A second later, she started clapping again, mouth repeating, "The city of heroes is peaceful." My heart was shaken hard. So they haven't been completely controlled. They're just trapped deep inside their own bodies. They can see and hear, but can't move, can't call out. I clench the paper airplane tightly, turn around, and rush into the secret realm. The glowing light swallowed my body. The scenery around twisted violently. When I landed, in front of me were floating stone platforms. Above, a starry river hung upside down. Below my feet, mist rolled thickly. Deep within the secret realm, a familiar figure leaned against the stone wall. Leah lifted her head, her pale face full of exhaustion. I rushed to her, just tried to help her up. But she grabbed my wrist. Her palm was ice cold, fingertips covered in tiny wounds. The longbow was covered in cracks and blood. The true Count's sword was stabbed slantwise in a stone crevice. The sword's light was so dim, it seemed about to sleep. My voice was hoarse. What exactly happened? Leah looked at the entrance of the secret realm, her eyes tight as a drawn bowstring. She said on the third day after the dragon died, things in the city started to get weird. First, the patrol soldiers forgot to switch shifts. Then the tavern owner forgot he had a daughter. Finally, everyone began repeating the same sentence. The city of heroes is peaceful. Leah walked to the center of the stone platform. She drew a rough map on the ground with the broken sword. There's a core chamber below the goddess's temple. In the center of it hangs the Peace Bible.
It's absorbing the goddess's power.
Then channeling that power throughout the city's runes, sending it into everyone's mind. The rune on Tony's hammer is one of the branch nodes. I remembered the emptiness in his eyes and clenched my fist. Destroy the Bible. The magic array will collapse. Everyone in the city will regain their memories, and the goddess's mind control will fail. The problem is, the temple is surrounded by brainwashed citizens. We can't hurt them, but they'll do anything to stop us. Leah gave a bitter smile. The scariest thing isn't the guards. It's the regular people. They'll grab your leg, stand in the doorway, use their bodies to protect the goddess's peace. I fell silent. When facing the dragon, I could fire the cannon. Facing demons, one could set them on fire. But when it comes to the residents who once placed their hopes in me, I can't bring myself to hurt them. Leah seemed to read my thoughts. She softly said, Li Tianqi, don't treat them like enemies. They're just trapped. What we need to do isn't to fight our way out. It's to break in while staying awake. Leah picked up the true Count's sword. The blade trembled lightly in her grip. She handed me the sword. It once helped you slay the dragon. Now it's time for it to help you shatter this false peace. I gripped the sword. A faint warmth flowed into my hand from the hilt. Right then, the secret realm's entrance mist began swirling. Outside, the roar of thousands could be heard. Those who destroy peace, come out and be purified. We hadn't even left the secret realm yet. But already the exit was surrounded, turned into a cage of living people. Leah and I stood together behind the stone door, peering outside through the clouds of mist. A dense crowd blocked the streets. Soldiers, blacksmiths, children and elderly people. None of them held terrifying dragon-like weapons. Some only had wooden sticks. Some even came bare-handed. But that's the harshest part. The goddess knows I won't kill them, so she turned the whole city into her shield. Leah whispered that we can't drag this out. The magic outside the secret realm is getting stronger. Wait any longer, and the goddess might even invade this place. I took a deep breath, slipped the paper airplane between my fingers. You're not going through the front gate. She looked at me. Her eyes lit up. I tossed the first one. The paper airplane aimed for the rooftop across the street. A flash of white light. I grabbed Leah and teleported right through the wall of people, landing on the tiles. People below raised their heads and spotted us. Their voices surged like a tide. A second later, countless stones, sticks, and ropes came flying toward the rooftop. I quickly pulled out the cuckoo shield from my pack. All the attacks bounced right off. Leah readied her spare short bow. She fired paralyzing arrows to the edge of the roof, immobilizing those trying to climb up. They didn't scream in pain. There was no fear. They just mechanically climbed upward. I felt a chill in my heart watching. This wasn't a manhunt. This was the goddess, turning living people into endless waves of mindless traps. I tossed another paper airplane, teleported with Leah to the top of the clock tower. The temple was getting closer. Looking down, the packed crowd left not even a foothold in the plaza. Just as I was about to force my way through, a familiar hammering sound suddenly rang out in the distance. Tony was marching toward us, holding his hammer. The controlled Tony raised his hammer. For a second, I almost forgot with these same hands. He once forged the very holy sword. He now stood at the very front of the crowd, his gray-white beard perfectly still, his eyes terrifyingly empty. With every step, the room beneath him glowed. Residents around him parted as if receiving an order. Leah's face turned grim. Tony is a master blacksmith. The goddess must have turned him into a mobile node. I looked at his chest. Sure enough, a golden rune was embedded beneath his apron. It was identical to the one on the iron hammer, except it glowed brighter. Tony suddenly swung his hammer. A shockwave blasted through the air. Tiles shattered all over the clock tower. Leah and I leapt away at once. That blow landed on the edge of the stone wall. He stomped down hard. If we took a direct hit, not even the Burov shield could take it. I quickly fired an ice grenade. A freezing blast instantly froze Tony's legs. His movements finally slowed for a moment. But after a brief pause, his arm continued to rise. The goddess's power was forcibly controlling him from within. I gritted my teeth and charged over. Master Tony, wake up. You promised to wait until my triumphant return. You said the true count's sword's return meant hope for the city of heroes. His hammer was raised above my head. The wind from the swing messed up my hair. At the last split second, his hand suddenly trembled. I saw a hint of struggle in his eyes. Run, Leah shouted. Just as those words left her mouth, the townsfolk behind Tony suddenly rushed forward. I clenched my teeth. Hold Leah back. Throw the paper airplane before the white light shines. I saw Tony suddenly swing the iron hammer, using the hammer's body to block the street entrance, firmly stopping the crowd chasing us. Blocking the street entrance. This time he's not a puppet. I kept using paper airplanes with Leah. Teleport to the back entrance of the temple. Moving forward non-stop, passing through 3 stone doors. Finally arrived in the underground hall. Forged iron plates attached to the stone door. The heavy back door opened silently. No guards inside the door. Only a jade staircase descending downward. Both sides of the wall are covered in murals. The murals show the goddess creating the world. Scenes of the dragon being sealed, protecting all beings. If I hadn't seen the puppet city outside, I might have really believed she was the eternally correct savior. In the center of the hall, a crystal emitting gentle golden light, floating in midair. That is the Peace Bible. I stared at the Peace Bible, but a strong sense of unease rose in my heart. It went too smoothly. So smooth that it's abnormal. Since the goddess can control the whole city, there's no way she wouldn't notice our infiltration. Even less likely to put the most important core in a completely undefended spot. I didn't act right away. Instead, I took out an ordinary stone and threw it at the Bible. Just as the stone touched the golden light around the Bible, the entire hall instantly changed. All the murals on the walls twisted. Golden chains densely floated up from the floor. All exits suddenly slammed shut. The chandelier overhead shattered. Countless golden spikes formed from the light rained down from the ceiling. Pupils shrank. It's a trap after all. Leah immediately drew her bow. 3 arrows fired in rapid succession disrupted the formation of the spikes. I raised the Earl's sword, blocked with a swing, deflected all the spikes aimed at us to the side. The fake Bible burst out blinding golden light. The goddess's voice came from all directions. Li Tianqi. Leah, you really came. I've been waiting for you for a long time. The golden light faded. The goddess appeared beside the Bible. She was dressed in white. Her face wore a merciful smile, but there was no warmth in her eyes at all. You think I would put the real core in a place that's so easy to find? The fake Bible instantly shattered. The first illusion was my mom. She stood in the hall holding longevity noodles. Her eyes were red and asked why I wanted to leave again. The second illusion was my dad. He sat on the sofa, his voice tired, saying, Tianqi, come home, don't worry about this anymore. My feet felt nailed to the floor. Leah quickly stepped in front of me. Don't look, it's just an illusion. But when the third illusion appeared, he froze. It was his parents who died in Longxi River. The goddess's voice echoed from all directions. Put down your weapons, and you'll return to the peace you desire most. The goddess's cruelest power isn't controlling the city, but she knows the piece of meat in everyone's heart that's hardest to let go. From Doomsday to Dragon Dynasty, from dragons to the goddess. I just want to go home. Just to have a normal birthday. But fate is like a hook that won't let go, dragging me back to the battlefield again and again. My fingers slowly loosened. The real Earl's sword slipped down an inch. Just then, a suppressed cry came from Leah's side.
His parents?
The illusion stood in front of him, open arms, telling him not to take revenge. His lips turned pale. He could barely hold the bow. I suddenly snapped out of it. No, someone who truly loves us would never use our weaknesses to force us to give up others. I raised my sword. The blade horizontally pressed against my palm. A slight pain made the illusion in front of me shimmer. I stared at the illusion of my mom. My voice was hoarse. You're my mom. My mom would feel sorry for me, but she wouldn't let me step on someone's freedom to go home. The illusion's smile froze. I looked at my dad again. My real dad taught me, you can't just care about your own comfort in life. The golden light began to twist, ran to Leah's side, pressed her shoulder firmly. Leah, look clearly. They're not your family? They're the shackles the goddess put on your wounds. Leah's tears rolled down, but she suddenly drew her bow. The moment the arrow pierced the illusion, the entire hall cracked open with a thunderous sound. The fake Bible shattered, but the real door finally appeared. Leah wipes away her tears. She regains her balance. Her gaze is much colder than before. I know. The goddess has finally reached her last limit. I thrust the true count's sword into the door crack. The dragon crystal on the blade glows brightly. It drills into the gap like a key. The giant white door slowly opens. There's no room behind the door. Only a golden red lake floating in the void. A small crystal floats in the center. That's the real Peace Bible. But as soon as I step inside, countless faces appear in the lake beneath my feet. All of those faces belong to the residents of Warrior City. They're trapped beneath the water. Their mouths move silently. Their eyes are painful yet lucid. They're calling for help. My chest suddenly tightens. The goddess pressed the minds of everyone in the city into this lake. We take a step forward. The water stretches out golden arms, trying to drag us in two. Leah shoots arrows to break the arms. But the broken golden light quickly reforms. I instantly fire dozens of freezing bombs at the bottom of the lake. Chill spreads in a flash, freezing the arms reaching out in midair. We rush toward the Bible across the ice. Only 10 meters to go. The goddess finally appears. She stands in front of the Bible. Her white robe billows despite the still air. Her face still bears a look of compassion. Li Tianqi, why must you always bring war back? I stop in my tracks, pointing the sword at her. What I brought back isn't war. It's choice. The goddess gently shakes her head. Choice brings desire. Desire brings conflict. Conflict brings death. You may have slain a great dragon, but you can't save the evil dragons in people's hearts. She raises her hand and the entire golden lake boils. Let me forever shut that door for everyone. The moment the goddess raises her hand, the ice beneath me shatters completely. Golden lake water bursts upward, like countless chains wrapping around Leah and me. I swing my sword to cut through the chains of light before me. Leah rolls and retreats. 3 arrows fire consecutively toward the goddess's brow. But the arrows stop halfway in the air, held by an invisible force. The goddess waves her hand lightly. All the arrows shatter into light dust. She is harder to deal with than the dragon. At least the dragon has a physical body, has scales and a heart. The goddess is the ruler of this starfield. In a single thought, the lake water becomes her weapon. The Bible is her fortress. Every trapped consciousness is her shield. I can't attack recklessly. Every misplaced strike could injure the minds of the residents trapped beneath the lake. Leah clearly understands this too. His sword becomes more restrained. He moves away from the goddess, forced by her pressure, not touching the silhouettes in the water. The goddess watches us. There's disappointment in her eyes. You're both too weak. The real one must dare to make decisions for all beings. I smirk, dodging a blade of light. Make decisions for all beings. Did you ever ask them if they wanted that? Her voice suddenly rises. When their freedom is restored, they will argue again, be jealous again, pick up weapons again, and people will die once more. And people will cry again. Leah's eyes are red, but she doesn't retreat. She says, of course I'm afraid of war, but I'm even more afraid that everyone can't even own their own laughter or tears. As soon as these words fall, the true Count's sword suddenly flashes. The eyes of several residents at the bottom of the lake light up as well. A thought stirs within me. The Bible isn't only something you fight with a sword. It's free will that is its real nemesis. I finally understand. The key to destroying the Peace Bible isn't brute force, but waking the trapped people up themselves. I abandon the frontal attack and instead buy a special effects loudspeaker from the shop. Laya sees me pull out these items. She's stunned for a moment. Then she understands what I mean. She blocks the way ahead for me. The bow fires rapidly, forcing the goddess back half a step. I turn the loudspeaker to maximum volume and yell at the Golden Lake, Tony. Do you remember the day the true Count's sword was forged? You said you'd give everything you had, just to forge hope. One dwarf's face at the bottom of the lake suddenly trembles. I keep shouting, the young soldiers on the wall. You once told me. Please, that wasn't something the goddess made you say. You gave Warrior City to me yourself. Several young faces begin to struggle. And me, I'm Laya. I fought side by side with you. We guarded the gates together. We fought the dragon together. We laughed, cried, and fought together. You're not puppets. You're my dearest family. Her voice pierces through the golden light, straight to the heart of every imprisoned soul. The figures at the bottom of the lake instantly boil. They raise their hands one after another, desperately pounding on the golden surface, holding them back. The goddess shouts harshly, enough. These petty desires only breed pain. I stare at her, speaking each word clearly. Pain is theirs to bear. You don't have the right to erase it for them. Laya's tears fall, but she smiles. A muffled shout suddenly rises from beneath the lake. I get energized. Then more voices bubble up from under the water. I remember who I am. The light of the Peace Bible cracks for the first time. As the Bible splits its first seam, the goddess's mask of mercy cracks too. She's no longer gentle, nor persuasive. She raises her hand and reveals countless golden spears, spear tips, all aimed at the figures who have just awakened beneath the lake. If freedom brings you pain, then I'll make you quiet again. My pupil's contract. She's trying to forcibly reset everyone's mind. Laya lets out an angry roar. Arrows form a line of white light, forcefully intercepting the spears in midair. I also swing out the true Count's sword. Sword light sweeps across, crushing all the golden spears near the lake. But there are too many spears. The goddess draws all of the magic array's power over. Golden rain falls from the sky. Every spear that lands makes a figure writhe in pain. This can't go on. I instantly pull out the cuckoo shield from my backpack, stacking up a semicircular shield right on the lake. Laya stands at the edge of the shield, sword pointed at the goddess, voice cold as ice. You say you're afraid of death, but what you're doing now? How is it any different from the dragon? The goddess freezes. Laya keeps moving forward. The dragon burned the city with fire. You lock hearts with crystal. Dragons cause deaths. You make life worse than death. Both of you are disasters wrapped in different shells. These words strike like an arrow, piercing right where the goddess wants to avoid most. Pain flashes in her eyes, then turns to deeper obsession. You don't understand. I've seen the world destroyed again and again. I created them. Then it's your responsibility to shield them from all the pain that lies ahead. I shouted, but did you ever consider that while you're blocking their suffering, you're also blocking their love, courage, and hope? The Count's true sword shone even brighter, almost blinding. Shadows at the bottom of the lake joined forces, slamming into the golden barrier. Tony's voice was the first to break out.
Lady Goddess?
Stop living for us. More and more people joined the chorus. We want to wake up. We want our own Peace Bible. The cracks spread rapidly. The goddess whipped her head around sharply. For the first time, panic flickered in her eyes. As the entire city's voices shattered the golden lake, the goddess finally turned a true murderous intent toward Laya and me. She pressed her hands together in prayer. A massive golden halo unfurled behind her. As the halo started spinning, the entire starfield seemed pressed down. Layers of shields shattered one after another. The lake's surface surged up in 100-foot-high waves. I staggered backward from the shock. A sweet taste rose in my throat. Laya was also blasted into the air by the shockwave. She slammed down on the ice. Gritting her teeth, she pulled herself up. She barely got to her feet when the goddess had already raised her hand, pointing at her. Let's erase you first. A solid pillar of divine power shot straight toward Laya's chest. I tried to throw a paper plane over, but the space was locked down by the goddess's halo. The paper plane burned to ash the moment it left my hand. Laya didn't dodge, but instead drew her bow. She wasn't aiming the arrowhead at the goddess, but at the peace Bible. In an instant, I realized what she meant to do. Laya, no. She looked back at me, her eyes so calm it made my heart ache. Li Tian's, don't let him win. She let go of the bowstring the next second. The holy light arrow flew toward the Bible, just as the goddess's light pillar struck her. Time seemed to shred apart. I saw Laya's body violently convulse in the golden light, then collapse backward. Her sword, though, pierced the storm, driving deep into the fracture in the Bible. With a crunch, the Bible split in half. The goddess recoiled, suffering from backlash. Golden sparks trickled from the corner of her mouth. I rushed over and caught Laya in my arms. Her breathing was barely there, yet her fingers still clung desperately to the broken bow. She struggled to look at me, her lips moving slightly. Freedom isn't yours alone to gain. My eyes instantly filled with tears. The goddess stood at a distance, her face stripped of all sorrow, leaving only exhaustion and madness. She raised her hand, ready to deliver a second blow. And in my arms, Laya could barely keep breathing. The moment Leah collapsed in my arms, the Count's true sword seemed to hear the heartbeat of the whole city. The blade trembled violently. Tony's hammering echoed. The little girl's desperate plea to save our city walls' boy soldiers, and Laya's breath as we fought together atop the Dragon Dynasty. All of it turned into light, pouring into my palm. The goddess stood before the shattered golden lake, looking at me coldly. She said, as long as I'm willing to restore the formation, Leah would never have to hurt again, and no one would be in pain anymore. I slowly laid Laya down, shielding her with the last barrier I could hold. A life without pain isn't the same as truly living. I lifted my head, my vision flooded with a blinding red. The Count's true sword exploded with an unprecedented light, amplifying the people's thirst for freedom a millionfold. The bond Laya and I built side by side, and my own stubborn will, all pressed into my blade. Behind the goddess, her divine halo surged. A golden light slammed down like a mountain. I didn't retreat. My first strike split the halo. The second cut through the chains. With the third, I shattered the golden lake underfoot. The tip of my sword aimed straight at the goddess's chest. At last she retreated. In that instant, what I saw in her eyes wasn't authority, but fear. Roaring, I swung my sword for the final blow, and its light swept across the entire starfield, obliterating the power around him, the divine force knocking him violently to the ground. Before the shattered Bible, the goddess was defeated, but Laya's breathing grew weaker and weaker. I held the dying Laya in my arms, my sword's tip right before the goddess, just an inch away from ending it all. I glared at him, my voice hoarse and scorched. I've slain dragons. I've saved this world. Now all I want is to live peacefully with those I love. Why do you insist on destroying all of this? The goddess sat amid the fractured golden light, no longer high above, no longer distant. She gazed at the city of heroes outside, struggling to awaken. Her eyes held nothing but exhaustion and obsession. He said he's seen too many wars. The dragon wasn't the first threat, and disaster would not be the last. He's seen heroes turn on one another for resources, cities set ablaze by hatred, children crying for parents who never returned to the ruins. After Barbados died, the whole city cheered. But what he heard wasn't victory, but the footsteps of the next conflict drawing near. So he was afraid. Afraid another would-be tyrant would rise. Afraid the artifact would spark more fights. Afraid that after I left, this city would be torn apart by the dragons within people's hearts. And so, he chose to use the Peace Bible to seal everyone's minds, erasing desire, erasing hatred, and erasing freedom. Listening to him, the fury in my heart slowly faded. It's scarier than evil alone, because he really believed he was saving everyone. But he turned living people into puppets with his own hands. I could have killed the goddess right then, but when I saw remorse in his eyes, and looked down at Laya in my arms, in the end, I didn't strike. What I wanted wasn't vengeance or killing, but freedom and peace. I sheathed my sword and turned away. The goddess was stunned, as if she couldn't believe I'd let her go. She asked if I wasn't afraid she'd come back for revenge. I didn't look back, just held Laya tightly, step by step toward the exit. I said, "You've already lost." Not to me, but to the free will you never believed in. The golden lake crumbled beneath my feet. The shattered Bible could no longer uphold the magic controlling the city. The goddess's power faded away like a receding tide. Every chain snapped apart one by one. The city of heroes outside finally awoke. The man selling bread dropped his loaves on the ground, gripping his counter and gasping for breath. The little girl by the fountain stopped clapping and cried out for her mother. The runes on Tony's hammer shattered into sparks, and he staggered toward the temple, shouting my name and calling out Laya's as well. The temple dome cracked open with a thunderous roar, golden light sweeping across the city. Not a controlling light, but a lingering radiance after the binds were shattered. The city of heroes had returned. But Laya still hadn't woken up. Everyone else regained their memories, but Laya remained trapped in the darkness left by the goddess's attack. When I carried him into the infirmary, the whole city fell silent. No one cheered, and no one celebrated. Those he'd once saved, and those forced to hunt us down. They were all standing outside the hallway, eyes red, not daring to make a sound. All the villagers gathered around. We used bottle after bottle of top-grade healing potions. Layers of holy light arrays lit up one after another. Laya's wounds gradually healed. Her breathing became steadier, but she never opened her eyes. After Tony finished his examination, his voice was as heavy as the Iron Goddess. That strike hurt her consciousness. The body can be healed, but only she can bring her soul back. Waiting is my least favorite word. In the apocalypse, waiting usually means loss. But this time, all I can do is wait. After this battle ended, I awakened to freedom, the ability to travel between the real world and the candy egg world. The glow of unlimited vouchers and gold coins intertwined in the infirmary. I tore open a tiny door, and on the other side was my room in the real world. On this side was the warrior city I'd fought so hard to protect, which has finally regained its freedom. I reached through the doorway and touched my own desk. The real wood grain, the real warmth. Finally, I no longer have to make cruel choices between two worlds. During the day, I returned to reality, having breakfast with my parents. At night, I returned to Warrior City, keeping vigil at Laya's bedside. I keep telling Laya stories about everything that happened in both worlds. Tony Jiang finally managed to fix the string of freedom and hung it next to her bed, waiting for her to open it herself. Teen soldier Jiang can now hit the bullseye with one arrow, but still stubbornly insists he's far behind her. I tell her about the little girl who folded 100 paper airplanes, each one with a message, wishing that when she wakes up, they can go see the lanterns together, and about the sound of rain hitting the windowsill. I tell her the bus was as packed as a goblin army, and how Dad secretly saved me a piece of cake. Laya still sleeps quietly. But one night when I mentioned dumplings, her fingertip twitched ever so slightly, so lightly, like the wind brushing against a paper airplane. I instantly grabbed her hand, hardly daring to even breathe. Outside the window, the lights of Warrior City lit up one by one. I softly whispered, "Laya, I'll keep talking until the day you wake up."